Before we begin, thank you very much to a water bottle to help during the Q&A. For pitching in over on Ko-fi, thank you very, very much. I think the funny part about this is that when you tip on Ko-fi, it actually tells you that they bought you a coffee, because that's the whole idea, is that like you just like little micro tips. So like, oh, here's your, like I'm just paying for your coffee that day, that kind of thing. I don't drink coffee. Oh, it goes to whatever. In this case, icy cold water bottle to get me through the next minutes of answering every question you guys had for me during the month of August. So you should know all the rules by now. If you want to have a question answered for next month, please leave them in the comments below this video. Please mind the rules that we have in place. One comment, one question per person. That way we have time for everybody. Nothing that's against TOS. Nothing Gun Megatron, Gundam, and nothing that says like, what do you think of this story idea or this fan art idea? Your ideas are valid. You do not need my approval. There's a few others that I always forget, even though we've been doing this for like close to 2 years now. But they'll be pinned at the top of the comment section. Please mind them so that we can keep this orderly and keep this fair for everybody. Always appreciate that. And we are going to start with a comment that technically came in past the deadline, but we'll count it because it is always relevant. When selling toys to a collectible shop, what are some tips for not getting burned? Short answer, you're always going to get burned. That's just how that works. So selling to a collectible shop, you are always going to get very little. You're about, like a good shop is going to do like 40 to 50% of what your collection is actually worth. Because not only do they need to save room for profiting off of it themselves, you cannot make the assumption and you cannot make an offer based on the idea that they're going to sell literally everything. A shop is going to offer you something to where they know they're going to turn a profit on what you're selling them within like a month or two. They want to make sure they get that money back ASAP, and the rest can just linger after that. So it really depends on what you sell them. If it's something they think they can move quickly, you're probably going to get a higher offer than something like, Power of the Force Star Wars toys that are going to sit for literally years. So it's a lot of varying factors, but understand that even the most generous shops are not going to give you more than 50% of what it is worth. Toy shop selling should be for emergency purposes. You need cash that day. You are moving and have no time to send them off to eBay. You cannot find, emergency situations. Medical crisis came up. Need money ASAP. And that the money you are losing in doing it this way is paid for by the expedience in which it will happen compared to spending months getting it all sent off to eBay so that you can make 75% of the value instead of 50%. So in a sense, you're always going to get burned, but it's really up to you to determine how fair that burn is for what you need. Have any of LEGO's original themes interested you in the past? One thing you'd like is Exoforce, a mecha line that ran from 2006 to 2008. So I don't know many like Lego series that really like capture me. I just like themes is what I like. I like the castle themes because I like the idea of building my own medieval castle, things like that. But not really for any of the original themes, like maybe a little bit of Ninjago, but not really. Like my Lego interests usually revolve around like the modular buildings. They revolve around licensed stuff. Admittedly, a lot of my Lego purchases are licensed. Like the last ones I did was last Legos were like the Wall-E and Eve, because I just showed my girlfriend that movie, so she saw it for the first time and really liked it. So now it's Wall-E and Eve for a lot of this stuff. Do you know who the mulish ape by the name of Kong? Who is the mulish ape by the name of Kong? I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you mean the zebra bonanza in Donkey Kong Bonanza? That's about as close as I could get. I genuinely don't know what you're going for here. What power does its TJOmega Cyber Planet key activate? Oh, me knees. These keys. I have no idea. I assume it's like any other Cyber Planet key, and then just unlocks your personal powers. So it really will depend on you. Is RID-01 Megatron unbeatable at rock, paper, scissors? Most likely he is, because regardless of whether you win or lose, he's probably still going to set you on fire. So you will lose no matter what. You know, in the game of rock, paper, scissors, fire is undefeated. That's just how that works. Will Magnetar do watch parties for Kamen Rider Zets? Probably not, because watch parties get very, like, copyright iffy. That's a little bit dangerous to do. Also, Magnetar does not have a dedicated Discord yet. I originally thought of, like, if I hit 1,000 followers on Twitch, then I will open up a private Discord for Magnetar. So if you're not following Magnetar over on Twitch, go. It's in the description. It's in my links of stuff I do. Go follow over there. At 1,000, I wanted to do a Discord and I wanted to do a merch shop. Both of them. But I'm getting peer pressure to go ahead and do a Discord anyway. So that might be coming soon. But no, we'll not be doing watch parties. But I might be doing recaps of episodes. We might be doing like Toku Tuesdays or something. Did you see the Blockies Scyther? Yes, literally everybody on the planet was telling me that, like, oh, hey, Blockies is doing an articulated Scyther. And I'm super excited for it because, of all things, Scyther has never gotten a properly articulated figure ever. The only one we've ever had was the Mega Blocks, and obviously, like, that's going to have its limitations because it's brick built. This is going to be just like a little, like, 3-inch action figure Scyther. Somewhere between 3 and 4 inches. It's very hard. It's kind of hard to pin down, like, a concrete number of how tall it is. It's ironic that this is happening because right now on eBay, there is one of my Grail of Grails is up. Is a shiny Scyther action figure from 2001. It is an ungodly rare figure, and the guy wants 1,100 for it because it's a rarity, but also because the last person who had one for sale, normal or shiny, I would rather the normal. I have all but the wings of a normal, but I don't have the shiny at all. I would love to have that, but he wants 1,100 because the last person to sell one was shill bidding, and I know they were shill bidding because I have alerts from eBay that told me every morning, oh, hey, the exact same thing with the exact same picture is back up, but now it's $100 more expensive. Yeah, you really did sell that. You've convinced me that really is what it's worth. So it's artificially inflated price. It's bugging me. Since we're getting a new 86 Seeker mold, do you think any of next year's other leaked 86 listings could be new molds rather than repaints? Astro Train, Blitzwing, Shockwave, Soundwave, Clipjumper, etc. So Hasbro has said that they do really like the Astro Train figure, so I'm pretty sure that's just going to be a repaint, potentially a retool to clean up the shuttle mode. Because I'd really like for them to do away with that useless, like, caboose that toy comes with, and instead just put the budget into making him look more solid in shuttle mode. I hate how the shuttle mode looks on that toy. Blitzwing will be a repaint. Cliffjumper is going to be a repaint, or a retool. Cliffjumper is probably going to be a retool of 86 Bumblebee. Shockwave, I expect to be a completely new mold because they've run that Siege one into the dirt. And Soundwave, I am like certain is going to be a brand new mold, because that Siege one is just showing its age and it still has residuals from its original design. So that one's got to go. Does the name Rink-E-Dink sound more like a renegade GoBot who turns into a Zamboni or an evil Eternian hockey goalie played about as straight as a Molar the dentist. Rinky Dink actually sounds more like a bot of a rollerblade. That's what pops into my head. But out of those two, I would probably say the Renegade GoBot. For a future piece of media, will Skybite and Skullcruncher be duo in cartoon or comics? Skybite being the smart one, Skullcruncher being the brute. I mean, it'd be a funny idea. I like the idea. Well, Skybite is usually kind of dumb. Let's be honest. You'd have to make a completely different Skybite for him to be smart, which I guess they did in Cyberverse. It would be funny to have those two as a matched pair. One is a... Now, here's the thing. Crocodiles, alligators, they are actually land-dwelling. They lurk in rivers and lakes and things in order to feed, but for the most part, they live in burrows and dens on river banks. So if you're going to do like a weird comedy duo with Skybite, I'd like it to be like another sea creature, or if you're gonna do a Skullcruncher, like maybe some other kind of reptilian. I don't think they match exactly, but I love the idea of just like making one or the other like a comedic foil. I really love your BotCon video, and I was doing some research about Raksha and read her TF wiki, and I was wondering if you had ever met her at any old BotCon. So the only BotCon I ever went to was the 2010. By then, she was long since out of the fandom, and no, never encountered her whatsoever. So, no, I've not had the pleasure. First, some quick context. The Tegasword is like a genie, as can grant any wish as long as you win the war, but along your way you become the number one at something, like number one detective or treasure hunter. You already said your wish is eternal health and would fight as Boken Red, so in what would you like to become the number one? I mean, I would love to be a number one YouTuber or a Twitch streamer or a number one VTuber. Maybe not like the number one. Here's the thing. I don't want to be the number one of anything. Like, it's great to have that aspiration. Like, I'm going to be the best like no one ever was. But at the same time, I don't like how big of an attention that would pull to me. Like, I would love to be like, for like my VTubing, I would love to be a great VTuber, I would love to be a great VTuber that maybe that like at some point can pull in like 1,000 people on a stream. But I don't want to be an Iron Mouse that can pull in up to, upwards of 10,000 or more, depending on what she's doing that day. That's a little much. That's a lot of attention. That's a lot of pressure. Granted, financially, it would be amazing, but I don't need it to be like immensely financially successful. Like the more the money becomes a thing, I think the less fun I would have with it. So honestly, like, I wouldn't want that. I think I would want to be like a number one toy expert, like the kind that gets brought on TV to just go like, yeah, well, this is the history of He-Man and Masters of the Universe, this is how you can tie the He-Man mythos and the design work back to Barnum and Bailey Circus. Someone that comes on TV and like names crazy things like that about toy history, and that would be a great that'd make a great YouTube channel that wasn't too attention grabbing either. So maybe that would be the number one. I heard that recently Hasbro's other action figure lines, Marvel Legends, Star Wars, Black Series, there are apparently dropping in quality and not being well received, even with tons of figures left unsold in ollies, according to some videos. In your opinion, do you think Hasbro should put in more budget and resources into making those lines better, even if it comes at a cost of Transformers toy quality? Or do you think they should focus on all their budget and making Transformer figures as hard as they can and pull back on their other lines? That's not how it works. Everyone thinks that like the way this industry works is that like, oh, I'll pull budget from here and put it in there. Now it's so much better. That's not how it works. These lines have nothing to do with each other and do not financially impact each other in any way, shape, or form. Marvel Legends are being perceived in lower quality just because you have fans who remember them from like 20 years ago, where plastic was more solid, maybe more accessories, maybe more like Build-A-Figures were a more common thing, that kind of thing. And really, Marvel Legends has gone down in quality because there is so much overwhelming focus on the newer stuff, and you really do not get nearly as much of like the original like origin, like intention behind Marvel Legends. Yes, a ton are going unsold and they end up at Ollie's and Ross and all these liquidation stores, but it's stuff that was never going to sell in the first place. It's almost stuff they were like obligated to do. Like, because so much of what Marvel Legends is doing is going hand in hand with what they're doing with the Marvel movies. So the Marvel movie tanks, that toy line tanks. And that's been happening a lot. That's what happened to Immortal or Eternals. Those are all over the place. So yeah, no, it's not a thing of like, oh, well, they could pull this toy budget from here and put it here. It's not how it would work. You know what would happen? The toy would be $10 more expensive at retail. That's what would happen. That's how that would work. And honestly, you could say the exact same thing about Transformers. Transformer quality has been going down because they've just been relocated, because they've had to cheapen out in order to keep producing them the way they're doing them. Just how it's going. So no, yeah, it doesn't work that way, Hell Buzzsaw. Why can't Grimlock form his own separate team if he doesn't like Optimus as a leader? He has. Several times he has. I mean, in the Marvel comics, Grimlock did take leadership of the Autobots, and he had his favorites amongst that group. But, like, that's why he's leader of the Dinobots. There's a lot of stories where the Dinobots are a rogue team that are, allied with the Autobots from time to time, but basically just kind of do their own thing. So he absolutely does that. But also, if you mean, like, why does he just make his own team of Autobots? It's because Optimus is far more respected. Like, Grimlock is, like, there's be some Autobots who agree with Grimlock's sentiment of, like, they need to be more aggressive against Decepticons and all that. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to argue a Transformer who has led their war for, like, the last 9 million years. Why did collectors' interest in the main Transformers TV series toy line drop off so hard after TF Prime? Because after TF Prime, the toy lines for the Transformer cartoons started to become the little kids toy brand, while Generations became the big kids toy brand. So you started to see a very, very apparent drop in the overall quality of the toys. They were sold cheaper. Like what we had, like the original Warrior class toys that were done for RID 2015, were notably cheaper than the deluxes that preceded them, but they were also smaller, thinner, more simplified, less articulation, just generally a lower quality product, because they were designed for little kids to afford. This is back when 2015 is really when Hasbro started having the idea of, well, let's focus a toy line specifically on little kids. And that's going to be our cartoon line because because we're going to start aiming all this at a younger audience, and then we already have like the Generations and the movie stuff to aim for older audiences. So that's where the drop off comes, because frankly, they just stopped making a toy line that both kids and adults could both collectively enjoy, and they just started making one line for adult collectors, one line for little kids. That's basically how it goes. So I picked up a little candy item the other day because it had an Optimus on it, and it got me wondering, why has the Cyberverse version become the generic non-G1 Prime that they put on non-toy items? So it's not that the Cyberverse version has become the generic non-G1 Prime. It's that Cyberverse used what was called evergreen designs for its cartoon and toys. So Hasbro, probably around the time of 2015, now that I think about it, they wanted designs that could be used all the time to represent Optimus, Bumblebee, etc. on various pieces of merch and very inexpensive, cheap toys that didn't have to align with any existing fiction. You know, like, so if someone wanted to release stationery with Optimus Prime printed on it, or party favors, or, you know, things like that, like little kitsch stuff. They didn't want to have it tied to anything specific, and they didn't want to have to make brand new stuff every single year just to make sure it matched the current cartoon. So instead, they come up with the evergreen designs that are kind of a mix of everything. Well, Cyberverse just happened to decide to use those evergreen designs as the basis for its cartoon and its toy line. So it really isn't that Optimus Prime became like the generic Prime. The generic Prime existed for years before Cyberverse was a thing. And every one of those Cyberverse designs, they're all the evergreen stuff. So you can find like evergreen Bumblebee, evergreen Starscream, evergreen Megatron. They all look like that. Do you think we'll get a third-party triptych mask Onyx Prime can actually wear as a mask? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, literally any Transformer toy is liable to have some kind of upgrade kit at this point, and the more that it leaves out, the more that is likely. So you will probably see at some point, like DNA Design or Dr. Wu, one of those places, are probably going to do some kind of like upgrade pack for all of the primes. And, you know, the mask will probably be in there somewhere. But that's up to them. We'll see. If you haven't played a Legend of Zelda game in a while, would you be missing Link? Have you seen the new trailer for Glitch Productions' Knights of Guinevere? And if so, what are your thoughts? P.S. Love your work and all that you do. Your devotion to your craft is inspiring. Thank you very much. I'm not sure this is really should be inspiring. I feel like this is a cry for help that I can actually dedicate so much time to producing a video every single day and sit here for 2.5 hours and answer an entire field of questions. But I try. Thank you for appreciating the time. So I have seen the trailer for Knights of Guinevere. If for all you don't know, this is the new show that Glitch is doing that is penned by Dana Terrace, the woman behind The Owl House, one of my favorite recent shows. I am excited for it. I'm excited to see what she does when she is not leashed by Disney, because she definitely couldn't do everything she wanted to do in Owl House. So yeah, the trailer looks fantastic. We know from the original teaser there's some really twisted things going on in the series. I am absolutely looking forward to it. It's coming up quicker than I thought too. Like, I am very excited for it. Are there any modern figures that you could see working as smaller, non-combining versions of any of the OG combiners? I think Tarn would make a good base for a G1 Debbie due to chest plate, tread, shoulders, large feet. So the idea of like taking a modern figure and reimagining it as like if the combiner robot was just that figure. That's a fascinating idea. Tarn's funny for that because of the treads and the chest plate. Offhand, I feel like that might really be the only one that would work like that. I can't, because like the problem with that is that so many of the combiners are asymmetrical. So getting one that actually matches and then getting them into an alt mode that makes sense for them works. That's tricky. That's really tricky. Yeah, offhand, I can't think of any that I would go with for that. No, that's a wild idea. That is an absolutely wild idea. Jeez, yeah, I'm like staring at my shelves, going, okay, would any of you plastic idiots work for that? I don't think any of them would. That's the weird thing. I don't think any of them would. Like the cop out answer is to do like HasLab Optimus as Defensor because that was the scrapped BotCon idea. But even then, that's a stretch. That I'm cheating for that one. If Energon gets revisited in generations, do you think they can be done properly without their Powerlink gimmick, or do you think the gimmick is too important for them to remove? So we have proof of concept of that gimmick. If you recall, we have the Cyber Combiners from Earthspark. I did a review on those, and those toys are actually a lot of fun. They actually, individually in box, the individual figures were less than two deluxes would be. I think at the most, those were like $30 boxes for two toys. That's two $15 toys. So if you up the budget to 25 and made them Generations Deluxes, that would be fine. And though part of it does come with the fact that one does not have a vehicle mode. I will point that out. But the proof of concept is there because that was the Energon gimmick and it worked and they were fun toys. But personally, here's the thing. It is very pivotal to the characters because without that, you're losing like half of the design behind them. But I wouldn't mind if they gave it a shot just as is. And just like said, like, here you go. We're just going to let you have these guys just as good as they could possibly be. The problem with that is they would go cartoon accurate, but they use the CAD models of Energon's toys for the CGI of the series, meaning they're already cartoon accurate. So reimagining them gets even more difficult that way. So then you're asking like, well, if they're cartoon accurate, why not just throw that design in there? Why not just throw them in there? But you basically just make the Energon toys again. I'm not sure they would be improved. It's Energon is exceptionally tricky. That's why we haven't seen it. It's not because there's no demand for Energon. It's because how do you do it? Like, how do you do it? It's very difficult. A potential leader weaponizer. Alt mode, what comes off and what makes. Extra accessories to help weaponize figures or form kibble and alt modes, maybe even repaints or potential remolds. If you want to name them and give them bios, more power to you. That's asking me for an entire cast of characters. That's a rule I should have stated up at the top. No asking me for an entire cast of characters at once. I think the weaponizer thing is done, but yeah, like the idea of like a weaponizer, alt mode, what parts come up, or you're asking me to come up with your concept of a figure out of nowhere. Yeah, this would take a lot of thought to figure out exactly what would work. Because at leader size, the problem with making a leader class weaponizer is that the parts to make him leader size would have to be so big they wouldn't work as weaponizer parts for the smaller toys, or you'd have to break down into so many parts that you're not making a transformer anymore. That's where the problem lies. You know, a leader size toy, if you're breaking down into like weaponizer size parts to actually weaponize a deluxe, you're talking about breaking down into like 30, 40 pieces, and you don't have a transformer at that point. You have a Bionicle. It's a fun idea, and you're asking me to design one right off the, from the ground up. That's not appropriate type of question for this. It has to be like quick fire answers. But ultimately, I don't think this works. Ultimately, I think this is kind of doomed. So, no, I don't. I'm gonna pass on coming up with a concept because I think there's too many problems with it. Would you prefer Hasbro to take Transformers the same way they took G.I. Joe, more towards for collectors? They already are. Transformers already are designed for collectors. Like, The majority of the product comes from Generations, which includes whatever the current line is, Age of the Primes right now, and Studio Series, because that is a Generations line officially. I mean, that's right there. 2 out of the 3 lines that are running right now. Cyberworld is very much a kid-based line that is not interfering with those other franchises. But on top of that, you have all the licensed stuff that is aimed at collectors. You have the Masterpiece lines. You have a lot of like selects figures that are deep cuts only collectors would know. It's already aimed very solidly at collectors. The only thing you would do differently if this was solidly a collector's line is maybe beef up the engineering and charge more for each figure. That's literally all you could do to make it a collector's line. But really, you don't want to exclude the kids. G.I. Joe is a collector's line today because G.I. Joe just frankly doesn't work anymore. Kids aren't interested in military stories. So you don't see G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe has failed every time they have tried to revive it, except for the classified toys that aim strictly at adult collectors. So that's literally the only reason why they have done that with G.I. Joe. Transformers still works with kids. And as long as it's working with kids, it's still going to retain a level of kids' interest. So no, I don't want them to do that. I don't want them to go collector only. I feel like that really would kill the brand. Because frankly, there aren't enough of us collectors to keep it afloat. What do you think of a James Gunn directed and written Transformers movie? I don't know if he would be right for it. He's great at doing the superhero movies, and I have no doubt he'd treat the characters properly, but ultimately, a Transformer movie is not a superhero movie. It's not. It's like one part Fast and Furious, one part kaiju movie. Or like military movie. And that's not really the James Gunn thing. You know, that I would, and I almost expected like if he got in charge, like I don't think I'd like the direction. He's a good director. He's a good director. I like James Gunn stuff. I don't think he's a good fit for the Transformer brand though. See, with the new Studio Series A6 Seeker mold being a thing, firstly for Thundercracker, should Hasbro redo the Studio Series A6 Coronation Starscream with the new Seeker mold, or will it be compatible with the Earthrise Starscream 66 Coronation accessories? I think you should just leave the Coronation accessories out completely. Like, if you do the Coronation Starscream, you're mostly just going to rehash what we already did in Earthrise. Or 86, I should say, from the Earthrise mold. I think you're just rehashing it at that point. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think the coronation thing is necessary to do again. And I don't think it would be compatible with the other one because this one is notably going to be like different proportions. Like I think this one's going to be like a little bit sleeker, a little bit thinner in the arms and things than the current one. So I don't think the old set's going to be compatible, but I honestly I don't see them doing another Coronation Starscream, especially because the last one sold pretty poorly. That one ended up at Ross. They don't want that. They don't want a repeat of that. You might see like a Selects release at some point that just has like not the throne, but just the extra armor and the crown. That might be all you get. And that's all you really need. I don't know if this question, it's about a collector's community, can have a simple answer, but here it goes. From your experience with the Transformers community overall over the years, do you think we as collectors have coped with getting less value for money figures for higher prices, but we stopped complaining not to look like hypocrites for continuing to collect? Or do we actually get better figures for higher prices now, so we genuinely have less complaints about the prices? And I mean complaints about simpler figures, many accessories sold at higher prices, but like the recent leaders or commanders, essentially. Okay, try to simplify the question. Sorry for that. So basically, I think your answer is like, I think your question here is like, are we coping with getting less for more? are, you know, it's multifaceted here. You've actually asked more than one question here. It's basically like, why are there less complaints in the fandom? Is it because we've become complacent with what's going on, or because we are genuinely having less to complain about? I think that's what boils down your question a little bit. And I think it's a mix of both. I mean, I think some have just kind of gone like, well, that's what it is. And like, I think a lot of, like, I think the fandom itself has grown up and matured enough to realize inflation is a thing, and these are far more complicated and more involved than your standard action figures are. So they are going to come with a higher expense for what you're getting. But there is also the fact that, yes, there are a lot of upsides to modern Transformers that we didn't have before. But the truth really is, the real truth here is, we're all still complaining. Complaining will never go away in any fandom whatsoever. You can deliver an absolutely perfect product, and there will be an entire forum dedicated to why that product is absolutely horrible. That's just how it is. That's just how fandoms are. Every fandom has it. The difference now is that because of social media, because we are all on, Twitter, when you should all be on Blue Sky with me, where everything's a lot nicer, and because we have things like Discords that are like catered to what we like. Like, you don't like the vibe in one Transformer Discord, okay, this one's a little bit different. This one has, this one, because we cultivate the fandom around us now rather than being exposed to the entire thing all at once. So there's still plenty of places that you hear complaining, right? 4chan, web forums, etc., particular YouTube channels. And then that basically just becomes their own nebulous culture, separate from what you and I are experiencing in the fandom. So it's not so much that we're not complaining anymore, but we still are. We're just much, much better about putting ourselves in a place where we don't have to expose ourselves to it all the time. Our own little private bubble, if you will. But no, as according to that's really why you're hearing less complaints. Because the truth is, people are still complaining about the build quality on modern Transformers, but there's also people who see the upsides to them. So, is what it is. It's every fandom. Would you, as the TJOmega, fight Ultraman Omega to reclaim the Omega title? No, I would not. No, I would not. What I would do is I would have Ultraman Omega get into a battle with Kenny Omega, and when Kenny Omega hits One Winged Angel on Ultraman Omega, I know he's not getting up because no one gets up from the One Winged Angel, and it's that time where I hit Kenny Omega in the back with a steel chair. I take the pin on Ultraman Omega. 1, 2, 3. I am the Ultra Omega. I am the champion Omega. The other answer to that is how do you think I have any chance against Ultraman Omega? Oh my god. I don't have a chance against Ultraman Alpha, and I don't think that exists. Okay, the schedule conflicts fan is typing this moments after watching the epilogue. Oh my god. We just finished a 2-year plus D&D campaign that was live streamed on Twitch, by the way. The archive's over at the the Goblin YouTube page. If you want a podcasty type D&D show to listen to, absolutely go over and listen to it. I'm super proud of what we accomplished. What was your absolute favorite moment from the campaign that another one of your fellow players caused? I also have enough Q&A ammo questions to last me until whenever season 2 starts. Oh my god. My favorite moment that somebody else did. You are okay. So, Mage of Ice, I love getting the scheduled conflicts questions. You are also asking me to remember 2 years of D&D sessions and come up with a favorite moment from somebody else. That's, huh, that's tricky. That is really tricky. Um, Ilafi pulled off some really, really cool stunts. Ilafi did some super cool things. Like, God, there was a fight where he got up from getting down and then just got up and just like annihilated an enemy. If I'm remembering right, like I said, it's been a while. And I might be confusing campaigns, but really, yeah, like Ilafi moments were really strong. Like because Ilafi, for those who didn't watch, he's a monk who has the ability to burn a key point in order to not drop to 0 HP if he gets hit. Instead, he stays at 1. Well, when he gets a lot of key points, he could just sit there and tank things. We were fighting a Tarrasque, and he was tanking attacks from the Tarrasque, which is literally one of the scariest monsters in Dungeons & Dragons history, and it's just hitting him and doing nothing, because he's just too tough to die. He's too monk-focused to take damage. That's pretty cool. That's pretty badass. But yeah, I feel like I could go on. Like I feel like that would take a lot of thought and a lot of looking back at notes and a lot of looking back at thumbnails and trying to recall to myself what happened in each session. But yeah, like there's so many. There's so many. If Transformers were included in a Super Robot Wars game, what TF incarnation would you think would be perfect for the roster? I'm pretty sure I've said this in other Q&As. I don't play Super Robot Wars. It's a tactical game. I really don't like tactical games, so I've never played it. I don't know how the game plays or how the game really works mechanically to know what Transformer would work best in that scenario. All I know is giant robot fight things, shoot good. In which case, yeah, maybe Galaxy Force, because Optimus in that series kind of looks like a super robot. Yeah, that's literally all I got for you. That's all I got for you. I don't know Super Robot Wars. And I know I've said in past Q&As, I'm going to say it again. Please stop asking me about things I've said before that I do not know about. I hate going like, I don't have an answer for you because I'm not into that. I know you can't know everything I'm into, but if we've stated it multiple times, like, I'm not going to have a new answer for you. I'm just not. Have you considered adding a neutral option to your option voting poll videos? Someone in your audience is from the neutral planet. And remember, they have no strong feelings one way or the other. No, honestly, because for the debate videos, I really do want votes from people who have a firm this or that option. The neutral option, the like no strong feelings one way or another, that's just going to muddle the vote itself. I want you to have to pick because I don't need a vote getting split because there's so many people that are just going, I don't care. So really, like, if you have no strong feelings one way or another, don't participate in the vote. That's I feel like that's pretty simple. So there is that. So yeah, that's basically the long and short of that answer. It's just like, yeah, if you don't have an opinion either way, then don't voice an opinion. And you know, but if you want to participate in the vote, you gotta make a choice, one or the other. That's part of the game here. Who are Shattered Glass TJ's favorite Transformers from childhood? Oh, you know, all the greats, like Retrax and, Aqua Sting, because in the Shattered Glass universe, he kept that name. Basically, Shattered Glass TJ's favorite childhood Transformers are the ones that you saw on Plastic Addict, or the ones from like G2 that would have ended up on Plastic Addict. None of which I can name offhand. Huh. You're essentially asking what toys did I hate as a kid that the inverse me would have loved. That's probably getting into your like crazy camo color Bruticus. Like every time I really hated how those looked. I really did not like how those looked. See, you've said you don't like the concept nor the design of Gav, but now that the show's over, do you have any opinion about the villains? Okay. So here's the thing. If I said that I didn't like the design, didn't like the concept, and have actively said I'm not watching the show, how would I have opinions on the villains? Like, honest question here. Because, like, I don't. I don't know the villains. I haven't seen the villains. I have literally nothing to add to this. You heard my answers before about not liking the design work and concepts and all that of Gav. So you should know I wouldn't have an answer for this. I'm sorry. You just should have. Again, I don't have an answer. It's weird. Someone asks. It's a weird question to ask when you know my opinion on that series is complete ambivalence. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, Mellow Boy, hi. I know you're a new I know you are new to the Patreon because I saw your name in there. So please do not do this. This takes away this makes the video way longer to have like these huge explanations. Like I'm not going to invalidate your take. I'm not going to invalidate your takes here, but it's not the place to voice them. Like if you want an answer to a question, just ask the question. You know, and don't try to color it with this. How do you feel about the notion that HasLab should end and that there's no reason for these characters to be HasLab? So we've kind of gone over this before. There is absolutely good reason for HasLabs to exist. And there are a lot of toys that HasLab can do properly that retail cannot. So I disagree with the idea. So I'll say this. Having Star Convoy, having Star Optimus Prime, being a smaller Titan, everyone looked at that and went, well, there justifies, you know, doing like Star Saber and Victory Leo at retail because they could have been done like that, like a smaller Titan box. I'm going to tell you right now, Star Optimus Prime isn't nearly the toy that the HasLab Victory Saber is. And it's not a budgetary thing. Like that, like just because you have another size class available does not mean that you have the budget it would take to produce the toy correctly. We've heard 100 times from Hasbro why HasLab exists, because there are toys that reach a level of complexity that can't be done at normal retail. On top of the fact that, no, guess what? Most fans don't know Star Saber, Death Source, or anyone like that because they were exclusive to Japan. Because you are thinking that every single collector out there that buys Generations toys are just as savvy and interested and deep into this fandom as you. I promise you, they are not. I promise you they are not. They have their favorite shows from childhood. They have the favorite toys they grew up with. They have the favorites they will buy when they come up at retail, but they haven't watched the Japanese series. They might have seen or heard these characters once or twice, but they genuinely, honestly, do not care. The majority of fans know the G1 stuff that was in the US, and that's just how it boils down. No, these characters could not work at retail level. Not only because these are far more complex, but because there is a much smaller fan base for them, whether some people like to admit that or not. Not everyone is chronically into this fandom the way that some people are when they complain about things like this. You know, that's fact. That's fact. You know? So I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm not going to read this entire page. There's very good reasons for HasLab to exist. And really, the answer comes down to if people are whining about that, they're just salty over not being able to get the toy. That's it. I understand it's cost prohibitive, but understand there's reasons why it costs that much. There genuinely is. Do you think the G1 laser rods are due a new toy, and do you think they would do gut the light up gimmick? They would absolutely gut the light up gimmick. That's just too expensive to throw into a modern Transformer. We have not seen like electronics in a normal Transformer in a long time. If we see electronics, it is because the toy is dedicated to those electronics, and the action figure part, even the transformation part, pales in comparison to what the electronics are doing. So no, they would absolutely gut the electronics, but I do think they're due. I don't know how you would get them through because laser rods are actually really obscure. Like they're G2 toys, not G1. Which does make them considerably more obscure. They never appeared in fiction. They never appeared in like I can't even remember if they appeared in like the 13 issue Marvel comic. Like they're kind of a footnote. So I think the only way laser rods get toys is if you have other more prominent G1 characters that you could retool into the laser rods. I feel like, yeah, they're probably in the discussion somewhere at Hasbro, but they are not the first priority. With Studio Series concept art, what do you think the chances of getting a new version of Revenge of the Fallen Mind Wipe? I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But if they haven't done toy-only characters by now, I feel like we're probably never going to get those. Or if they do, it's probably going to be a completely separate line to current Studio Series. See, when you ask about concept art, that does make me wonder if Mind Wipe from Revenge of the Fallen did have proper artwork. And I'm just like not remembering it because, well, frankly, like it's kind of a minor character. I don't look into the movie stuff like that. This is when we can do a very quick TF Wiki search to see if he actually did have concept art for appearing in the movie. And no, he does not. He was toy only. Nothing in the notes about, oh, well, he was going to be this or that. So I would love it. I would absolutely love it. But I think the chances of anything toy only showing up in Studio Series are pretty small. Because concept art is not for stuff that came out in the toy line only, because most of that was not concept for the movies. I don't know. I don't know. I hope it changes though, because I think Studio Series needs more things to throw out, and popular toys from the old toy lines, probably a good way to go. With Bay coming back, how well do you think Overlord will slot into one of his movies as either a standalone villain or a third party wreaking havoc on the hunt for Megatron? Well, here's the thing. Overlord as a character, you know, he could be a villain because they are always looking for other villainous Decepticons to throw in as that movie's villain. But honestly, you know it would just be the name Overload, right? You know it would not be G1 Overload. It would not have like two human pilots. It would not have like the same personality. It would just be a big snarly villain, and that's it. Like, this is Michael Bay. These are his movies. Let's not expect him to actually introduce a character properly. It would be Overlord in name only, which kind of throws every expectation out as far as what he would actually be doing in the movie. I mean, I would love to see it because I like Overlord, but I have very little faith that that would actually be done well. What would you think of a Warhammer 40k Transformers crossover? Me and a few friends have been using Titans as terrain during our games. P.S. Our son was born healthy and is doing great. Okay, good to hear. Thank you for the update, Steve. Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. I really, I don't really like 4K, 40K. Everything I've ever heard about the how the fiction works in that universe kind of puts me off. It's just not my style of story at all. So I've never really looked into it. Now, I know there's good vehicles, but I only know that because I had to clean them up in Power Wash Simulator. Literally, that's my only 40K experience is spraying down some of the ships. I wouldn't mind seeing the ships as Transformers, but as like Metroplex turning into like battle terrain for them, that might just have to be left to your own imagination. But, good that you're having fun with it that way. See, when do you think we'll be getting a Studio Series red cup from the red floor with the backdrop being the yellow? Wait. What? Wait. Wait. I am completely lost. I have no idea what this is referring to. If this is from one of the movies, I have completely forgotten it. You've completely thrown me, bot shots. Good one, good one. Monthly reminder that you're amazing. I love seeing your videos on my feed every day. Should definitely do it more than monthly. Just know I mean this every day. I really should do these like every 2 weeks or so. Get 2 videos out of it that way, and it wouldn't take me 2.5 hours to record it. But this is just a nice way to keep it all together, honestly. You probably won't see this. Aha. I literally, they say don't read the comments. Haha, fools. For the Q&A, I see all the comments. You probably won't see this, but why are red and black your channel colors when green is your favorite color? I don't know. This is the biggest regret. This is absolutely the biggest regret I have of this entire YouTube channel. I have my logo that people have known for literally over a decade. And people in all stretches of this fandom know. And I can't change it now because it's too ingrained. It's like if they, suddenly decided the Autobot logo was going to be yellow from now on. Like you couldn't do it. I don't know why I decided that black and red was going to be the branding colors for TJOmega. I genuinely don't know why. Because you have to remember that was a long time ago I drew up that logo. That was a long time ago I drew up that logo. Yeah, like I'm trying to think. Because the original logo, the original version that barely anyone's ever seen, I used as an emblem for was essentially BattleBots in a game called Robot Arena 2. So I think what happened was that logo was done on graph paper, so it was very angular. And I didn't like the overall look of it. It wasn't round enough. The horns were too big. Like the sides parts were too thin. So I wanted to redo it in a way that like the Autobot logo became the Maximal logo with a lot more rounded parts to it. So I redesigned it to be round. And I think I wanted to like push the Transformer vibe for my bots in that game. So I made the logo red just to invoke an Autobot or Maximal symbol. And then I think it just stuck. I think when I decided to use the same logo for my YouTube branding, I think I just decided not to change it. Whoops. Yeah, to this day, it's the weirdest thing about it. Like, I ask myself every now and then, why didn't I make it green? Why, that's my branding. But at the same time, I have a brand new project that's all green, and it's actually, like, completely my aesthetics. So, like, We got there. We got there. Since we're getting Big Convoy, how likely is it that we get Die Atlas? Since in my opinion, Big Convoy is to Leo Convoy as Die Atlas is Star Saber. So you're not wrong in the fact that like they are successors to each other, but you have to remember Big Convoy got an entire anime dedicated to him. Die Atlas got one episode. So they're not entirely accurate. We did get a Die Atlas. They did it as a Generations figure in Japan. And it was a heavy retool. I want to say, okay, was it? I want to say it was a heavy retool of actually Titans Return Overlord. It's not the best. It looks fine, but it's not a great Die Atlas. Like they could definitely do with another run of that character. I don't know what you'd call it in America, but like they could definitely try that one again, run that back. But the answer is that like for now we have a modern-ish Die Atlas, but because Die Atlas has so little visual exposure, I do think it's going to be less likely that we're going to see him anytime soon. But I definitely think he needs another run. I definitely think he needs another go around. What's your most out there idea for a Cybertronian vehicle? So my most out there idea would be, why are you turning into anything? Like if you want to turn into a vehicle, just like fold up your arms and legs, stick some wings out and just go. Like literally they would look like the blocks that that Wild King Transformers turn into. And they just have wing and and really like, cause really you would have to have like some kind of skies as part of it. Like just like turn into like a couple cargo containers, but you fly or you float because you don't need wings. You're on Cybertron where there is no wind resistance. And really there shouldn't be any oxygen, but like apparently Spike and apparently Spike and Chip had no trouble breathing on Cybertron, so what do I know? That like I think that's just the wildest idea you could have at that point. Most out there idea is that why do they need to turn into anything that looks like something else? Like I don't know, just make the most efficient shape possible and just fly everywhere. Will you ever do the worst toy of every year video where you talk about single worst figure from every year Transformers 40-year history? Well, we're up to 41 years now, so it's a little bit uneven. But, potentially I could do that. People asked me, why don't you do the 10 worst toys of every year the same way I did the 10 best toys? And the reason I don't do that is because there's some years where there's really only like 12 toys released all over the world for Transformers. So literally I would just be repeating the exact same video, just backwards. And really, like, it's not fair. It's really it would not be a fair list to make because, like, on a smaller toy line, good toys are going to end up on that list. And I don't want to have a list of like, these are the bad toy. Like, I don't want to look at my G1 video and go, hey, these are the bad toys. Number 10, Wheeljack. His arms are long and still manages to look really cool and has the firing missiles. Well, this didn't work. I don't want to talk about good toys in a video that's about bad toys. So that's why I never did that. But talking about the worst of every single year, that's doable. I feel like I would do that in 4 top 10s rather than try to get like do it all in one video, because you know me, I like to pontificate, I like to explain. Have you ever noticed how more mentally stable combiners are ones with unified color schemes? Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Now, Defensor gives lie to that a little bit. I would say, well, though he is, I guess he is mostly white and red in all the other parts. Like, you're not wrong. I'm trying to come up with one to dispute that. I think the only way to dispute that is the fact that a lot of those end up being Decepticons who are normally like, who are more depicted as like wild and unruly. But you are right. Like, it tends to be like the more unified teams tend to be the ones that are more like in matched color schemes. You're right. Why didn't I ever notice that? That's weird. That's actually a good observation. Like to give lie to that, I have to go to like Ruination, who is a very stable combiner altogether, but everyone's a different color. But even that's a little bit of a stretch. What non-combiner characters do you hope get chosen for commander class in the future? Animated Lugnut, RID 2015, Underbite, Cyberverse Astro Train. So I don't think characters like that would work. Like Lugnut, I don't see needs to be a commander class. He's really not all that huge. He's just wide. Like, I think Lugnut would make a great leader class toy. Yeah, you think leader wouldn't work? I think leader would be fine. Like, he's wider. Lugnut is wider than he is tall. That's the thing. So like, I don't think he's got the like. I don't think he makes a good commander because commander class toys typically do a lot more. This is the thing. Commander class toys are rarely just big. Like Jetfire was big as a commander class because that's all he has to do. But everyone else, like, you are either multiple figures in a combiner, or you have a whole combiner skeleton with you that you can super mode with, or you have a big trailer that does a bunch, or you have or your Skylinks and you split into two different beasts and you have a base mode too. Commander is not just make the figure big. It has to do a whole bunch else to justify that price point. In that, I really do not think Lugnut would work. I really don't think Underbite could work. He should not be that big. Cyberverse Astro Train, I'd actually put that as a Titan. I think that's Titan. Especially the smaller size of like Star Optimus. Yeah, that Astro Train is absolutely a Titan. I'm hard pressed to think like who is left to be like a Titan class character who hasn't already been that, you know? You'd have to go outside. Yeah, you definitely outside of G1 because everyone G1 I think has already been done at this point. Like Jetfire, like we know Armada Jetfire is in the listings to come out as a commander class, but that's because he does a lot more. Not only does he have to be a big character, but he also has to form that extra set of legs, so he's doing a lot more. And he'll probably have his shuttle functionality to go along with him, and hopefully a mini con. $90 toy. You're telling me you don't have budget for a $3 mini con? Jeez, like I'm having a hard time trying to figure out who it would be. Like genuinely having a hard time trying to figure out who it would be. And like thoughts in my head go to like maybe a Marvel comic Fortress Maximus or Scorponok. Maybe because they do fit the criteria of doing more than just the one thing, and they are big characters. But geez, I think even that might be classified for leader scale. I'd have to think a lot more on that because the roster of characters available for that prerequisite, I think, is very thin at this point. What do you think is the most bingeable Transformer series? I thought it's because I was watching Cybertron. It's really easy to binge watch because each episode leads right to the next. Honestly, I had a really fun time binging Cyberverse because it's It's 11-minute episodes, so you're like in and out, in and out, in and out. Like you're never like stuck with one episode for too long. The pacing when you binge that show is actually really good. It's very bingeable, especially once you get into like season 2. And like they have the linking episodes just like Cybertron. But you're going to get, if you start getting into things like the Quintesson arc, then it's like, I want to keep going because I really want to see where this is going. And yeah, look. Yeah, Robert had it. Robert had it dead on. I assume that's pronounced Robert. If Armada Starscream had permanently joined the Autobots on Armada, what do you think of him adopting the name Star Saber for himself? I don't think he would necessarily adopt a different name. Keep in mind, yeah, you mentioned there at the end, he'd adopt it after the Star Saber sword. I don't think he would take that. Keep in mind, that's the role of the minicons. You know, that's like saying his name's going to be Jetstorm just because I like you, Jetstorm. So he wouldn't do that. I think he actually respected the minicons. So I don't think he would take away from them by taking one of their names, even if it's the name of their combination. Also, that's so confusing. If you tell Hotshot to go get Star Sabers and he brings back Starscream and they'll, no, I meant the sword, you idiot. That'd be rude. That'd be rude. Who ends up being the most bloodthirsty fight? Skybound Starscream or Bayverse Prime? So Bayverse Prime is not bloodthirsty, but he is brutal. Difference in that Optimus Prime in that series doesn't crave violence or get amused or happy of the violence he's causing, but he is willing to be very violent because he deems it necessary. Skybound Starscream likes to kill just for the sake of killing. Skybound Starscream just likes watching humans squish. So yeah, way more bloodthirsty. That's genuine bloodthirst. What color variation would you want to see on a G2 Technobot set? Oh my god. So this is going into my personal things again. This is going to be like back to my personal aesthetics. But it would be like black with like neon green. Like the neon green, I think hits the G2 requirement very nicely. But I also think that's where you go to like adding like the 90s kind of like almost like cybernetic or like cyberspace kind of aspects to it, you know, because that black and green just kind of gives like techno vibe. So I think that would be a direction I wouldn't mind for the Technobots. Of course, it's like straight up my aesthetic. I mean, outside of that, there's like there's that demented part of me that's going like purple and light blue, or like wanting to see each individual member a different color so that they would work like a normal combiner team, and you can have a little bit more variety and a little bit more fun with how they look. But no, black with the neon lines. And maybe not everybody gets green neon lines. Maybe it's like a Bruticus situation with like everyone gets their own shade of camo, but instead of like everyone just gets purple camo. In this case, everyone is like black with like a secondary color that's different across everybody. But in the vehicle modes, in the modes where they combine, that's where you get those bright like neon colors, the yellow or green, whoever that individual character is. That way it just kind of looks like circuitry across the character. It's all kind of like going into like his chest. That's what you do. That's actually what you do. You have all of them are cast in black, except for a secondary color that's different across all of them. So I have some variety, but that wouldn't show in the combined mode. You'd have just like the vehicles in the combined mode, and you'd have all these like circuit lines that go through them that are in these bright neon colors. and everyone's got their own, but that chest plate that goes over Scattershot would have the lines for everybody coming into the center. I don't even know because mine's not in the room right now. Mine's in the other room. I can't even remember if that's even possible on that design, but I think that would be amazing if that's how it would work. Wrong one. Wrong button. Let's see. Given that they have been forums for past riders, which related to firefighting and emergency rescue, do you think a rider show based on dedicated to that as a whole could work? Or if you do the theme, Sentai may eventually revisit first. I'm not sure if Sentai would revisit it because it would be very on the nose. But Kamen Rider, yeah, like I almost feel like you got that vibe a little bit from X-Aid because it was kind of in a similar story vibe of emergency rescue. What you're getting almost into is like Tomika Rescue Force a little bit. So we kind of have had a tokusatsu that's in that vein. But I think it would work. I think a Kamen Rider based on that would work. Different riders based on different emergency personnel. Is there any videos that are lost to time because of copyright issues or just not being happy with the end results? Videos lost to time would include things like there's been occasional times where I have recorded a video twice, so my thoughts and my quips were different from video to video. There's been an occasion recently where I recorded a video and then before I uploaded it, did one last check to see if I'd already done it before. I had. So there's like there's a video that I repeated. I won't tell you which one because I might post it as a surprise. There's a video I repeated. So the content is technically different, but the conclusions are the same. As far as like copyright lost, that would be most of TJTV. I had a backup of every episode over on Dailymotion for the longest time. I don't trust Dailymotion as a website anymore just because of how like scummy and like shady the ads on that site have gotten. So I don't try to repost them anymore. I think most of them, if not all of them, got taken down because like TJOmega does not come up on there anymore. So I think my account there just got nuked, and I don't really care about putting them back up. I had a lot of fun doing the TJTVs, but ultimately it was a vehicle to try to get picked up by Channel Awesome. I'm very happy that vehicle failed to get picked up. They were fun to do, but it was so much work put them together. So much work. Yeah, if there's ever a way I could get them up online again without worrying about copyright problems, I would, but that's really not likely. What animals do you think would make good Predacons versions of the Seekers? I personally like the idea of Velociraptors. So it probably would be like Pteranodons, because like as it is, Terrorsaur is very Starscream coded. But the Seekers do need to fly. Like Velociraptors would be cool just as like having a pack of Velociraptors, but Seekers are flyers. Like that's the whole thing. Is like that's why they can seek, because they can fly over things and find things. So yeah. Pteranodons, pterodactyls, take your pick. If the rescue bot Heatwave played Pokemon, would he spam the move Heatwave? He's a firefighter, not an arsonist, is the correct answer. Heatwave would be a water type trainer because he's a fire truck. Do you think Jawbreaker would be friends with Ed and Eddie? This is chaos today, by the way. Like, I feel like half of the questions have been kind of on topping and kind of in my wheelhouse, and the other ones have been completely out of pocket. Jawbreaker, see, here's the problem is like, I mean, I think Ed and Eddie themselves, I think the Eds would be like fascinated by a character named Jawbreaker, but I Jawbreaker really has barely any characterization to him. I can't even remember what it is offhand, so I can't really answer, unfortunately. It's a funny quip, though. What Transformer do you think would be interesting as a triple changer? What alt mode would you add? I think Tigatron would be interesting to add a non-organic alt mode, and how that affects his character. I think he would hate having a non-organic alt mode. Like, if he just had a car mode, I think he would never use it. I think Megatrons are interesting as triple changers because it adds so much more danger to what he can bring to the table if he has both a powerful land vehicle and a powerful air vehicle at his disposal. Like, that makes him a really big menace. Like, I really like Megatron as a triple changer. See, why did Hasbro use Siege Magnus mold for Nova Prime when the Volvo Optimus Prime just needed a new head press and jetpack to look like him? Because the Volvo Optimus Prime is not engineered to have the extra weight on his back like that, and he doesn't have any connection points engineered in. All of that is already in the Siege Magnus version, or what is actually properly Optimus Prime, because that's the one that came first. So, yeah, that's the answer. It's like that mold was just ready for those parts. You know, it was already designed to have a wing pack because it was Cybertron. It was Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime before it was Ultra Magnus. So the ability for a backpack was already there. The components were already there. Instead of making a completely new jetpack with completely new fittings and retooling Volvo Prime's back in order to fit there, you just retool the wings. Way easier. Also, honestly, Volvo Prime really, I don't think fits Nova Prime. Honestly, kinda. Like, I really like. I got my Nova Prime over there. I think that was the best choice they could have made. See, it's pretty well known how much you love the Cybertron line, but are there any figures, characters from Armada or Energon you feel will be done better than their Cybertron counterparts? So, of anyone who, so from anyone from Armada or Energon who were done better there than they were in Cybertron. That's difficult. So what makes that difficult is in Japan, Cybertron was a completely different series. So, yeah, for that, you have this like divide where like there really isn't a lot of characters who made the jump over there. You have like, okay, you have the Optimus Red Alert, you have Optimus, Starscream, Megatron, Hotshot, those guys who are in everyone, Jetfire, who was in all of them, but then you had like Red Alert coming back from Armada, and honestly, I feel like that's it. Like the Sideways were not the same guy. They just shared a name and a gimmick, but they were not supposed to be the same character. Yeah, there really isn't anyone else I can think of offhand. I would have to go to toy-only characters. I would point to Thundercracker, because I didn't like Thundercracker being done as a different toy, an inferior toy to that Starscream. I thought that was a little bit weird. I preferred how they handled that in Armada, where it's more traditional, just repaint Starscream, because it still made him look like a really, strong character, rather than Thundercracker and Cybertron, who's like kind of a wimp. How would you call a fusion between Overlord and Overload? Load Lord. Don't Google that. I don't think we would like the results. If the Decepticons had a convention, would we be called Con? I didn't read ahead to make the Load Lord joke. I think they would go with something a little bit, I think they would go with something a little bit different than that. Con's funny. Deception Con might work. Deception Nation. I think I like how that rolls off the tongue. Who would win in a battle between Ultraman and Pepsi Man? So, Ultraman would win pretty easily. Because, frankly, Pepsi Man does have some weird powers, but, like, you're not going to beat the giant that can fire lasers out of his forearm. You're just not. Just not. Pepsi Man's biggest power is running. You can't run from Ultraman. Do you think RC should be a member of the ARC crew? Most recent stories have been making her one of the original Earth Autobots a lot. Yeah, mostly because these days, we have a lot more female fans in the fandom and a lot more girls who are picking up the toys. So Transformers is kind of becoming like a non-gendered brand. So they're incorporating more female characters. And RC is just the most well-known one. So she ends up on the ARC crew a lot. I don't mind seeing her there. I will say that. I don't mind seeing her as part of the ARC crew and being there right from the get-go. I don't think that necessarily needs to be RC though. Like I like the idea of adding more like girls to the main cast. But that's about it. That's about it. Like I don't need it to be RC, but it is nice to see her around more often. Do you think you could explain to me how Action Master Devastator works? Like, I understand that Nucleon caused the boss to lose their ability to transform in exchange for power, but since he is a combiner, what happens to his components, and doesn't Devastator have his own consciousness? And depending on how much Nucleon he uses, the side effects become permanent and cause him to adapt a new alt form, be deconstructed and reconstructed. It basically is just like, here's how it would work in canon. Devastator needs a recharge. Uses Nucleon as a last resort and gets stuck that way. Devastator has his own consciousness built of the 6 Constructicons combined. And really, like, if you think about it, Devastator's alt mode is the other 6 Constructicons. So he would lose that ability. They would fuse together. The reality is that the toys were made to be like mini G.I. Joes, and they don't care about the Nucleon storyline in the comic books. That's just how the comic books explained why there were non-transforming Transformers in the in-universe. Do you think Tarn works as a rival to Hot Rod or Rodimus? So, I mean, Hot Rod and Rodimus already do have their own rival. Let's point that out. But I feel like it needs to be someone who's a lot more sure, someone who like comes across a little bit stronger. I think your better option for a rival is probably someone we've mentioned already, and that's Diatlas. He doesn't have a proper rival or even villain in the Transformers fiction. I mean, there's Weilenjäger, but like, you know, that barely counts. There's barely any fiction to him. There's no toy of him. Like, he's just like a big spooky bad guy at the end of the video game. You know, like, you didn't really have any encounters with him. Didn't really have anything to do with him. He's just the final boss at the end. You know, all of Diatlas's fights were with the Decepticon Emperors. So, or was it the great generals, whatever they called it? You know who I mean. So I think that would be the better one, because you're dealing with Tarn, who is like the absolute devout follower of Megatron's beliefs. And then you have Diatlas, who is this super noble hero, very like Autobot centric, more so than even Hot Rod or Rodimus. Because, you know, he's not depicted as kind of a young punk who doesn't know his place in the universe yet. I think that's your better bet. Do you think that Scraplets are the creations of Unicron? I think they might be his fleas. I don't think Scraplets are a creation of Unicron. I feel like they're either just another robotic life form similar to Transformers. You know, same way that we have piranhas here on Earth. but we have, normal humans too. Um, I think it's more likely if you want to come up with an origin for Scraplets, I feel like they're more likely to be like a failed Quintesson experiment. Like, can we just create these little mites that are going to devour the Autobots and clear up Cybertron? And oh, wait, they're eating the planet too. Son of... Okay, call it off. That kind of thing. If you could use any of the molds that are used now, Titans Return, Siege, Age of the Primes range, and turn it into a collaborative figure, what mold would you use for which collaboration? Difficult question, because now I have to comb my brain for all the different toys that have been made. So I think my go-to answer with collaborations I would love to see would probably is like in that realm of like Metroid. I still would love to see Samus in a as a collaborative figure. I would probably end up pulling the Studio Series Bumblebee Soundwave mold, because I want it to be a bigger figure than just like Origin Bumblebee, who is like very much shaped like one of Samus's gunships. But I would rather just do an extensive retool of that Soundwave to get to the same place. I think that would be my best bet. Since we now know that modern G1 Grandis is now inevitable or on the horizon, what could we even more obscure for them to make figures for? Violin Jaeger. A proper Super Megatron and a proper Ultra Megatron wouldn't be bad. Star Giant would be super weird to see as a Titan down the line, but that's possible now. I'm not sure. G1 Grandis is only inevitable because they do kind of talk about, like, Takara really wants to do a Grandis, but like, where do you work that in? What size? Would anyone in the US care about a Grandis? So like that opens up a lot of interesting possibilities. You'd like them to make the in-game enemies for Transformers and Armada PS2 game. That's a cut. That's a deep cut. Yeah, like there's nothing off the table anymore. Like that's the thing, like ground enemies from Devastation are getting toys, We're going crazy with a lot of this stuff now. Do you think a Shinto shrine would make for a cool Titan or modular alt mode? I feel like it would be perfect for a retired Fortress Maximus. Shinto shrines aren't all that big though, last I checked. Like Fort Max and Metroplex turn into cities, or at the very least battle stations, big enough for giant robots to populate. So like I feel like it'd be way smaller. I feel like that would be way smaller. I mean, it'd be funny. We don't have Transformers that just turn into like normal buildings. Like that would be cool. I think just because they're not mobile, like you just have to have a lot of Transformers who didn't want to move anywhere. Okay, that's a lot of comments. Thanks for marking them like that. Given Shockwave's difficulty with alt modes, how would you feel if he had a dinosaur alt mode? What is with this? Let it be record show I asked this before the fan vote became a thing. Yes, I see, 4 weeks ago. Several continuities where he's connected to the Dinobots dinosaur mode, so there would be an opportunity for him to pick it up. Ooh. Sorry for the yawn. It is getting late here. You're not wrong. He would have had the possibility of turning into a dinosaur alt mode. I wouldn't mind it. I feel like Shockwave, being like the logical one, really wouldn't see the need to hide himself or have like a disguise on Earth when he's probably there to take it over or plunder or destroy it. I feel like taking the time to find an alt mode would be illogical to him, especially when his Cybertronian mode is likely far stronger than anything you could find on Earth. So there's that. There's that to consider. I mean, I'm generally in favor of just doing weird stuff with Transformers in general. We need it more often. So, like, I wouldn't mind him having a dino mode. There is precedent for him to have it. With Commander Magmatron, would that allow us to get a Beast Wars combiners like Magnaboss and Tripredacus without having to make them individual combiners sold at retail? I don't think it's Commander Magmatron that allows that, because those individual pieces do not need to form individual robots. That is a far greater level of complexity than just, because keep this in mind, Magmatron is definitely a complex figure, but ultimately he does work the way a normal Transformer does. You know, just open this up, arrange these parts like so, and here's your robot mode. The only difference is his robot mode has been split into 3 components. Otherwise, he's essentially just a complex Transformer. To incorporate in robot modes along with all of that, that's way too much engineering and way too much complexity to get it as a commander class. What you would get would be akin to a small Titan like Star Optimus Prime. It would not surprise me if Magnaboss wasn't a small, like $160 Titan in the near future. Would make a lot of sense to me. I do think Magnaboss gets enough attention, both from fans and from Japan, because Magnaboss and Lio Jr. were big deals there. I feel like they do have a strong chance. Tripredacus is probably a harder sell, because in Japan, they didn't have Tripredacus. They had Tripledacus. Completely different characters and completely different color schemes. So you'd have to have a repaint specifically for the Japanese market, which they could do. But it is a little bit more work to make that happen than just doing Magnaboss. Because here's what would happen. The US version of Magnaboss would just have the Lio Jr. head. They wouldn't bother with having the Prowl head in there. Okay, Q&A personal question. If you want to skip, go ahead. But how did you and your girlfriend meet? Let's say that is a little bit personal. Don't ask about my love life. I appreciate your interest, but leave my personal details out of the Q&A, please. We're here to talk toys. We're here to talk like mutual interests. Let's leave my personal life out of it, please. Just recently watched Cybertron for the first time in a while, and I absolutely loved it. Has the right feeling of Super Robot without going all out Mass Force like a real good cast of Autobots. My question is, who is your favorite character from the show? Mine split between Scourge and honestly Optimus. So the important thing to note here is I watched Galaxy Force. I'm a fan of the Cybertron toy line, not as big of a fan of the cartoon. I thought the cartoon had a lot of questionable choices. Things like they hated silence. They would never let moments hang. Like if there was an opportunity to work in lines for a character, they worked them in. So the show was a lot louder than it needed to be. The biggest grievance is talking during the combinations, during the stock footage, because that is flourish for the person watching the show. That's not supposed to be happening in real time. Otherwise, why would anyone just stand there and watch you spend a minute combining when I could have just shot you 100 times by now? So I think Cybertron's got flaws, but that does mean I didn't really watch it very intently compared to how I watched Galaxy Force. My vote would go to Starscream because I think it's genuinely one of the most dangerous Starscreams there were. And just to show, like, he did have a lot of power behind him when he was determined, that makes him a lot more threatening than most Starscreams. The fact that he pulled off a good coup makes him more dangerous than a lot of Starscreams. But yeah, there's a lot. I don't know the show well enough to really know how the characterization was changed. So that's a little bit tricky for me to answer. I do like Flame Convoy, though. I do like Flame Convoy. I'll agree with that one. Concerning the command, okay, that's comments. Do you have a particular least favorite Transformers character in fiction? Just one that I hate the characters. The twins are too easy, right? The twins are way too easy. Jeez, I have to come up with someone who just like, from a good series, I just absolutely hated it when they came on screen. That's actually hard to come up with, honestly. Geez, yeah, I'm trying to very quickly think through a lot of characters throughout Transformers. It's not easy. It's very much not easy. Offhand, I really don't. My answers would be the easy answers, which would be like the twins, Kicker. Character-wise, maybe Energon Ironhide. Like, I really did not like how they depicted the character. What D&D monsters would you have liked to see done as Dicelings? I really wish that Dicelings have taken off, because that really would have been fun to have those continue. We got good ones: Displacer Beast, Owlbear. We got I don't think we got all 5 dragons. We got a Beholder, so we got a lot of my favorite ones. If I'm thinking of anything else, Mini Tarrasque, like that would have been really weird to see. Trying to think of just like purely like monster. Catoblepas, I've had a history with them. They didn't do anything like humanoid. They didn't do like any humanoid monsters, which like limits it a lot. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing like a oh, why did the name escape me? Rakshasas. I wouldn't mind a Rakshasa. But I'm not sure that would have worked either. So, what percentage of the Transformer consumer base are adults versus kids / parents? You respond to my previous question saying G1 sells because it's safe and nostalgia. If adults buy most, it makes sense, but in the case of kids, I can't imagine an average kid knowing about and asking parent for a G1 cartoon outside of Evergreen. So, keep in mind, all these cartoons are available for free now. They're all on YouTube, on official channels. You can watch them anytime. And parents who grew up with Transformers are going to sit their kids down. I've had kids in the toy shop who knew who these G1 characters were. And keep in mind, kids don't need to know the story. A lot of kids who buy Transformers are literally just going to see one on a toy shelf that looks neat and want their parents to buy them that one. They don't know the character of Starscream. They don't know they don't know who Thundercracker is. They don't know who Blaster is. They don't know who Perceptor or Windcharger or Wheelie. They don't know any of these characters. But if they think they look cool when they see them on a store shelf, they're going to want their parents to buy them. That's where you get the percentage of kids who are buying these Transformers. Not because they know the cartoon. Some of them will. Some of them will. But sometimes the toy just has to look really cool. And that's what they hope for, is that the kids are going to look at those toys and go, that's cool. I want someone to buy me that. So that's where I come with like, nostalgia makes it safe because collectors will buy it alongside kids. But the percentage is basically about 50-50 these days. And honestly, it might start going more toward collectors in that percentage, just because kids are generally less interested in toys than they used to be. But as someone who manages a toy shop, kids still want toys too. Just saying that. 2 people asking me the scraplets. That might just be YouTube glitching. I do want to mention, this is a good time to mention. I am sorry if your question gets skipped at any point. All I do is scroll through these comments. I have no control over if YouTube doubles them up. I have no control if YouTube skips one. It's just I scroll down, it loads questions, I answer what I can see. Regarding a prior question of mine, which Transformers do you think would make all sense as being children to other Transformers? Have you asked a question already? Because I saw Clippy earlier. I can't remember, and I don't want to scroll all the way up because then I'll get lost as to where I left off. But yeah, I'm just going to reiterate: one question per person. If I think people are getting around that, I'm going to have to start muting people from participating. I don't want to do that. Please. Please be fair. As far as like a 5-line limit, no. As long as you are asking a question, not giving me like a whole dissertation, no, I'm gonna let you ask whatever you want. Like really, like adding in like a limit to that. I mean, I don't want to do that to people. I don't want to skip questions just because, oh well, you're 3 words over. That make me kind of an asshole. We're not doing that. And yes, I just cursed. It's a Q&A video we're about 2 hours into already. I'm not concerned about kids watching at this point. Regarding a prior question, which Transformers do you think would make all the sense being children to other Transformers? So, yeah, this is hard to come up with like familial ties. I mean, I could see something like Prime Smokescreen being someone's kid because he comes across that way. Like there are generally just Transformer characters who are depicted more youthfully than the others. I couldn't come up with like, oh well, here's the mom and dad, but I could absolutely see like characters like Hot Rod or Wheelie end up being like, yeah, like there's a Transformer who calls himself a parent to this one. I feel like Cup is like Hot Rod's grandpa, not his dad, his grandpa. Who would be your ideal English voice for Star Saber? Mine would be Dan Green. So Dan Green wouldn't be bad, other than I feel like Dan Green has exactly one voice. I don't get a lot of variation from Dan Green performances. Christopher Sabat comes to mind. But that's me like thinking All Might. That's me thinking of All Might. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not up on my voice actors right now. Like not up on my like current voice actors. Like that one like that's from like my normal back pocket. Depends on it really depends on the story. Depends on the story. Like if you're just dubbing Victory, then okay, yeah, like I'll stand by my choice. Like most of the names I come up with, they'd have to be a little bit more youthful. How would you feel if Barricade became the default police car Transformer, Prowl was changed into something else? I wouldn't like that, honestly. I honestly wouldn't like that. I feel like Barricade could be like more like a police truck or SUV, like a SWAT vehicle. And it would make a lot more sense for a Decepticon to be like the buffer, tougher one. Yeah, I like Prowl just being like a beat cop type. Yeah, I wouldn't like that change. I wouldn't like that change. I don't mind Prowl getting a different alt mode, but I don't want it to be at the sacrifice of like, well, someone else is a cop car now. Because like then you're trying to pull Barricade as being more iconic than Prowl, and like that doesn't seem fair to the character that's been around for 41 years. How about Ravage's Transwarp Cruiser for a Titan? It'd be more in scale than the Axelon or Dark Side. It's super sleek, and its robot mode could be a bird, reminiscent of Laserbeak Buzzsaw. I don't think there's enough market for that. You get the Nemesis and you get the Arc because they're much more. Here's the thing: you get the Arc because it's far more iconic, and we've known it for years, and it's been re-shown and redone for years. We get the Nemesis because people had the Arc. They want the Nemesis to go with it. And you'll notice the Nemesis's production run was way lower than the Arcs. You could find the Arc all over the place. You could find it at clearance stores. You couldn't find Nemesis anywhere after it was sold out. No, the Transwarp Cruiser just doesn't appear enough. I honestly don't think there's enough mass to it to make a really good alt mode. And you're not going to make a Titan that turns into a bird that nobody cares about. That's just not gonna work. This is not gonna work. Yeah, like I'd almost feel like it'd be better to just make a brand new character transformer, or like save it for like a weird Soundwave in a different series of just working in it as an homage rather than try to make a Titan out of it. You gotta remember the most important factor to Titans is like, will enough people know what this is and want to actually buy it? And a super obscure ship from Beast Wars that turns into a bird and not a robot, I don't think anyone wants to buy. Do you think Beast Wars Transmetals could be HasLab candidates? Vacuum Metal Chrome has been used in previous HasLabs. So, I think the backlash on that would be astronomical. I don't think that would work. It's not the Vac Metal that's the problem. Hasbro uses that as a scapegoat. That's really not the issue here. They did Tigerhawk, they did Megatron. They've got no issue just doing Transmetal designs without Chrome. The issue here is that all of the Transmetals have that third mode built in, which means more engineering, more part count, more cost. Basically, anything they do for Transmetals, a lot of those would have to be sold as pluses. So like Rat Trap would be a deluxe plus and sold at a Voyager price point because he has all those extra folds for the wheels, the extra parts that have to fold out, you know, on top of having to turn into a rat and then an articulated robot that's better than the original. Because also keep in mind, it has to be able to rotate the backpack, which the original could not do in order to be screen accurate. That makes it much more complicated. So yeah, I think that's the reason we're not, just because budgetary wise, it's a stretch to get people to buy that. And to do an entire line where that's the case is going to hurt a lot of things. You get away with doing like Cheetor as a deluxe because it's just 2 panels that flip out to make his wings. But like some of them get involved, you know, like some of them get kind of involved. So like Tarantulas. Yeah, you ain't doing that at deluxe. That's a Voyager class at that point. Who do you think did the blindly loyal to Megatron better? Lugnut, Prime Soundwave, or Bay Blackout in the comics? Didn't read the comics, so I can't speak on Blackout. But you don't beat Lugnut when it comes to loyalty. You don't. You don't. That's Megatron's #1 simp. You don't. You don't beat Lugnut as far as blind loyalty goes. Let's see. Thoughts on Labubu? If someone brought an authentic one to the shop, would you be interested in buying it? It's technically 2 questions. Don't do that. I will answer it here because it is very close, and I would say it anyway. Well, one, I don't know how to authenticate a Labubu, so I wouldn't buy it. I would not take it. I will say this. I have never in my life seen a toy line that screams 1-year fad louder than Labubu. I get people asking for it like literally every day at the toy shop. Every day at the toy shop, I get a phone call. People asking for Labubu. I've had people come in saying like, well, Google said you sold Labubu. Yes, because it's a toy, and Google will tell you I sell every toy on the planet. No, I hate these things. I absolutely hate these things. I don't begrudge people who like them. I personally hate these things. I think they're just over-marketed. Just over-marketed guff. They're just plushies. That's all they are. They're just plushies that have just been way overblown. And yeah, like this time next year, I don't think anyone's going to care. I think people are just going to realize, oh, they're just plushies you can hook to a bag. Anyway, moving on. Um, yeah. What do you think of Superman versus Optimus Prime as a potential matchup for Death Battle? This only works if it is done as a contest of heroism and self-sacrifice. It is not a good one-on-one. Superman would literally curb stomp Optimus Prime. So we saw Frieza versus Megatron. I told you my thoughts on that. I think they overblew Megatron's abilities way too much for him to be a match for Frieza. Yeah, this would be even worse. This would be even worse. Yeah, this is Superman. Superman. It's a one shot. He could literally just ram through Optimus Prime's chest, just wipe out the spark, and just be done. Like, yeah, popular in the deathmatch, battle match matchup community. It's a really stupid one. There is no Optimus Prime that can stand up to any version of Superman. Let's see. How would things turn out if the Transformers remained part of Marvel Comics, considering the overall existence of G1 Comics? And if they were to make their way to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whether it's connected via the multiverse or as a new reboot primarily set in the MCU? I mean, the short answer of that is Marvel at no point owned Transformers, so this would never happen. They would never make it to the MCU, even if they continued the Marvel comics. Honestly, like, the Marvel comics had plenty of space to go because, you know, the toy lines just kept coming. They could just keep making comic books based on the toys. If they continued, that would mean the G1 toy line never really petered out. We would never have Beast Wars. Yeah, like that's a really involved question. They would never make it. They would never be put in the Marvel Cinematic Universe though, no matter what, because they Marvel licensed Transformers for that. You don't have any ownership that would allow them to put Transformers in the Marvel Universe movies. You just don't. What's your favorite Kamen Rider belt or driver? For me, I haven't watched the show yet, but I've seen reviews of it. I love the O's one. Watch O's. Blackheart, watch O's. Okay? It is a fantastic series. I do really like the O's driver. The metals, like clunking them in, is very, very satisfying. I think just for like an overall driver, I probably would say the double driver is probably the best one because, like, with all the Gaia memories you can load into it, there's so many things you could get it to do. There's so many little custom tricks. That I think is I think that's probably like the best belt. I'm not sure it's like, I think that's the best belt. I'm not sure it's my favorite. I really like the Deca driver. I do really like the O's driver. Like even like there's been good ones. There's been really good ones. God, my brain is getting very late. My brain doesn't want to function much anymore. Oh, what is it? Geats. Geats has a really fun belt. My Geats driver is busted because I tried to use 3D printed stuff to unlock more noises, and that just damaged the chipboard. So I need a new one. I need to dig one up eventually. But yeah, that's a really, really cool belt too. I love how that belt works. 01's got a good one. God, there's so many good ones. God, there's so many good ones. I think 01 also has a really cool one. So which is more likely, a third-party Creo Devastator or third-party Final Form Kamen Rider figures up to Zets? Probably the Kamen Riders, because I don't think any third party ever wants to touch anything Creo. There's absolute zero demand for it. There'd absolutely be demand for like Final Form Ride Kamen Rider figures that were really good and better transformed. You would just have Toei and Bandai of Japan suing you immediately for trying it. Do you think Kamen Rider Zets would have anything to do with promoting the franchise's 55th anniversary, considering his design suspiciously looks like Ichigo? Is it time for the 55th anniversary? Oh my god. I'm sure they'll throw something in. It's probably one reason why he shares Ichigo's color scheme. I really think part of why Zets is Ichigo coded is largely because it is trying to be part like the first of a new era for Kamen Rider because they're trying to go globally. So I feel like that's where you get your homage to Ichigo from. Which Transformer would you trust in cooking your daily meals, or at the very least, giving you grocery shopping advice for cooking these meals later? I don't think there's a single one. Because the number of Transformers that eats is extremely small. To see them actually eat anything approaching real food, the only thing we ever saw was Rhinox eating the wild bean vines, which, if you know what those are actually big seed pods. They aren't actually like beans or anything edible. So yeah, I don't think I would trust any because none of them know what taste is. None of them know what human food tastes like. You know, like if a Transformer gave me grocery shopping advice for meals, it would include WD-40 to lube the pan. And then it'd be like 30 weight motor oil for the sauce. Ain't good. Ain't good. You'd have to get some like human expert, you know, like your Hounds or your Jazz, like someone who like is really familiar with Earth, so at least have some knowledge to work with. Considering Udon Entertainment has the rights to produce Mega Man comics, do you think they'll do the series of Battle Network and Star Force timelines with AI progress, not robotics? Or is something that could hold it back? Given the fact that the Battle Network collection is one of the best-selling Mega Man games of all time, I definitely think there's interest in them doing Battle Network. I don't know about Star Force. Star Force is out there. Star Force is out there, so I don't think they would get to that one. But Battle Network, I could absolutely see them doing. Okay, let's see. Okay, so so I'm reading through this. You mentioned this Q&A, don't involve the military because you need human perspective. I mean civilian perspective, like everyday person perspective. And yes, military people are just other humans with a different job, but at the same time, they're going to be there to attack the robots because they are perceived as a threat. I don't like seeing military in Transformers fiction because like it just becomes it's too easy for it to become dominant in the narrative, and I don't think it's necessary. You know, like you don't see the military in superhero movies because guess what? The military would be very interested in like superpowered metahumans running through New York City. But you don't see the military there because adding them to it complicates things. Starts dangerous, comes close to depicting your heroes as villains, which I hate in a story. But yeah, like it does come down to the story being told. But just personally, it's just a personal preference. I don't like seeing the military in Transformer stories because they tend to dominate the plot. Do you think they'll make a new Thunder Clash? If so, it would be a new mold or based on already existing mold. I'm not sure you could do Thunder Clash out of a like a different mold. Now, if they were doing like a generations level Jinrai, I could probably see a Thunder Clash out of that. They have like similar beats to their transformations. Like I could see that. But like that would have to be like a really weird like commander class retool. Like Jinrai would have to be a commander class toy in the US, which is entirely possible. But they would then have to just like I would see them running Thunder Clash as a retool of the Cab as a Voyager class toy, but I would not see them doing the trailer to go with them, because the trailer would mean another commander class, but a very obscure character. And that's a lot of molding to only get one use out of. So, yeah, I think that's as close as we would come. Is just like a Cab section. Would it be funny if Optimus Primal's alt mode was Robo DK from Mario Kart World? Well, if you could go back in time in 1996 and tell the animators and designers from Hasbro, oh, hey, there's this funny robot monkey 20 years in the future that you need to emulate, it'd be funny. It's a weird crossover, sure. Should all Dinobots on a team be of the same size? And if so, how big compared to your average Cybertronian character? So I think there's room for interpretation here. Again, my favorite answer to give. It depends on the story you're telling. You know, when it comes to like the movie ones, especially like how all the toys are, depicting them at different sizes, I thought worked well. You know, they don't necessarily need to all be the same size if depending on how you're depicting them. Especially if you're making the beast modes realistic in size compared to each other, then you're absolutely talking about varying that robot mode size. If so, how big compared to your average? I mean, I think Dinobots need to be bigger than the average Transformer no matter what. I think even if they change up the sizes to them, I think that needs to be consistent. Again, unless you have a really good reason. Like if you make a Raptor Transformer, okay, it's a Dinobot, but Raptors are actually kind of small, so they get to be normal size. Across all depictions of Sentinel Prime we've seen, do you think he has misunderstood sense of direction, or is he just being an overall jerk? No. Like usually Sentinel Prime is always kind of working against the Autobot ways in one way or another, but he just usually ends up being a jerk about it one way, in some ways. Like in the movies, Sentinel Prime, it's a twisted sense of direction because it puts no value on other life outside of Cybertronian, which is not the Autobot way Optimus Prime knows. Sentinel Prime in animated is just absolutely a power-hungry jerk. I don't think he's misunderstood. I don't think he has a misunderstood sense of direction. I think it's just a lack of morals, really. Like overall, just like not evil per se, but misunderstood moral compass. Like an offbeat moral compass. Rare non-TF question. I don't know. I've been getting some pretty weird ones this time. So, okay. You've established that Carnage as one of your favorite villains. What are your thoughts on some of the other symbiotes? Out of the ones you know, at least. Hang on. Jeez, yeah, I have been talking for well over 2 hours at this point, and my voice is getting haggard to the point where water alone is not calming it down. As far as other symbiotes, a lot of the Life Foundation symbiotes I kind of feel kind of come off as kind of generic. They don't really do anything story-wise with them. The exception is Scream, and I like Scream. I like the different direction they took when they gave Scream her own book. That was fun. I like the concept behind Hybrid. I like Toxin. Hang on. I like Toxin because like the idea of like a very young symbiote that gets to learn what heroism is first. That worked. I liked that. Sleeper, like the one that spends most of his time as a cat. I really liked the direction depiction on that one too. Like Sleeper was a fun addition to throw in. Kind of gave like more of a family unit to Venom. And Mania was cool too. I liked Mania as like a different take on She Venom. But yeah, those are the ones I can remember offhand. There are a ton of symbiotes now. If Hasbro were to do a Transformers My Little Pony collab, what man, we have talked about this. So, you know, if they do Friendship is Magic, here's what it would happen. It would basically be working like those upcoming NFL helmet Transformers, where it would be the same figure. They just repaint and retool it into all 6 of the main ponies from that show. You know, like, and also Spike would not be a target master because they wouldn't be weaponized. They are magical creatures. They are not going to turn into guns. Even if they are a robot disguise as said creature. No, 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 like literally that's your answer. They would just do the main 6. Okay, who would the Dodge Interceptor from the 1986 movie, the Wraith, be another good alt mode for Barricade? I don't know that movie, and I don't know what a Dodge Interceptor looks like. I'm not a car guy. I think that's another one to add to the list. I don't know cars. Despite being into Transformers my entire life, I never really paid attention to the cars they transformed into. Dirty secret there. And I certainly have never seen the Wraith. So I literally have no answer for you there, Matthew. Yeah, sorry about that. Like, what are your thoughts on Bantor from Beast Wars? I do like Bantor a lot. I think he's one of the better, like, basic Fusors. Bantor has a very particular place in my like collection, because it's I have a big business aunt who just never really understood the point of like the collection and like the online stuff that I do. Now, once I had decent subscriber numbers and once like I was pulling in decent money by doing this, okay, then she stopped. As there was at one point where it's like, do you really want to be known for this? And now looking back on it and going like, yeah, kind of. But I remember just being a kid at a Walgreens, just bored because I was being dragged around by my mom and my aunt all afternoon. I'm just like, they've got one Transformer here. Can I just have this one Transformer? So $5 figures, and it's the one Transformer my aunt ever bought me, and it was a Bantor, and I still have that Bantor in the collection. So yeah, Bantor has a weird place. Bantor has a weird place in my heart. What are your thoughts about Professor Princess? Okay, getting into like animated stuff. I don't remember her very strongly from animated. The human villains in general didn't leave much of an impact on me outside of like Headmaster, who's like way over the top, so it's hard to ignore him. I don't remember Professor Princess all that well, so she didn't leave too much of an impression on me. I almost feel like your better bet with that is to go like Oh god, what was her name? The spoiled rich girl from Powerpuff Girls. Like to have like that kind of like spoiled rich girl, but thrown in like actual like Dexter's laboratory level intelligence, so she can just like make her own gadgetry without any kind of budgetary limit to just be a menace to the Autobots. That would be a better. That would be better. Of course, as I say this again, I can't remember her that well offhand. That might literally be what she was, and I'm underselling her. What random one knockoff Transformers collab? What random one-off Transformers collab with any brand or franchise would you like to be made official? Like Hatsune Miku Soundwave goes so hard. So that again, we kind of answer that a lot. I feel like that one of the most common questions is, what collab toy would you want? I've done a whole video explaining like what collabs I would like to see. But like my answer before was Samus. I'm sticking to that again, as like I want to see Samus from Metroid as transform into her gunship, because it seems obvious and it seems like it would be really, really cool. We now return to how would you escape? If you were trapped in a room with only your favorite Transformer character, would you be able to escape or convince you to help escape? So I'm trapped in a room with Star Saber. It's either him or Blitzwing, and Blitzwing would not be agreeable. Of course, Blitzwing would just transform and blast his way out of the room, and then I would just follow after in the hole. I feel like in either case, I'm going to get out of that room because my favorite Transformer characters just happen to be powerful enough to really bust out of the room. The problem, Mrs. Disaster, is you're not really describing what the room is. Is the room just like a bedroom I'm locked in, where a Transformer would barely fit, or is this like some kind of like fictional super prison room where like the walls are like 5 feet of titanium all around me, no doors or exit points? Like the scenario here is a little vague. A little vague. I'm sure most of my favorite Transformers could bust out of just like a normal room. Let's see. In an alternate timeline, if Battle Convoy didn't become the Autobots' leader, Optimus Prime, what other role do you think they would have put the semi-robot truck as? I could say making a big bruiser muscle enforcer of the group, almost like TF Prime Bulkhead. He could even wheel in extra firepower with a battle platform, or wheel away injured Autobots in his trailer. So basically, like, if they didn't use the original Convoy toy to make Optimus Prime as the leader, what other role would he play? If you didn't have a Ratchet, I would say the medic, because that base in there, that can absolutely be used as a repair drone, and that's actually like one of the original intentions behind that that they originally thought to use that toy for. So yeah, like I would make him like I think the alternate would be a medic, because yeah, he could wheel injured Transformers out, or he could do on the spot repairs and get them back into the fight really quickly. And then you could just depict him as being like super tanky. So like, it's a medic that you can't really shoot down because he's just made of sterner stuff, as it were. With how obscure Super Ultra Megatron is to Western audiences, would it be better to release it as a HasLab, or would the Megatron branding sell itself no matter what? The second, the latter. Yes, they are very obscure to the Western audience, but they are still very cool looking Megatrons. Then that's all you need. For the same reason they could get away with Star Convoy as the Titan this year, they could get away with doing Super Ultra Megatron as like leaders, or like, man, if they're big enough, I think you could even get away with a commander of Ultra Megatron. So yeah, like that would like that's basically where it lands. Like, yes, the form itself is obscure, but it's still Megatron. Megatron's gonna sell well. Do you if they do more anime crossovers, what would you want them to do? Personally, I'd love Shenron as an alt mode, Kami as a robot for a Dragon Ball collab. So, that's not how they do the collabs. So, like, the collabs are always like, let's take a thing from a fiction and make it transform into a brand new robot character. So Dragon Ball would be fun. Any one of Bulma's vehicles from Capsule Corp would work for that. I'm trying to think of like animes with like good vehicle presence without like jumping to something as easy as Initial D. Yes, I think it's hysterical that a third party company made a drift out of the Initial D car. That's funny. Also, just realized, hang on. One of my top shelf toys was like teetering, and that would have been real bad because he was not cheap. Yeah, I'm trying to think like good animes that would work, but still had something you could like transform into. Shenron, like Serpentine dragons are really hard to make Transformer toys out of to begin with, which is why I would be hesitant to make a Shenron. I'm also getting very uncomfortable in this chair because this has been a while. The hard part is like I'm stuck on like anime. It's like my anime knowledge and my anime wheelhouse is like in the 90s and 2000s. So like I want like I want the Outlaw Star. That's a super cool ship. I would love for that to transform. They would never do it because not enough people know Outlaw Star anymore. They would be far more interested in doing like the Going Merry from One Piece. That would be a collab they would absolutely do. But for like current anime, like honestly, I'm not up on my anime enough to really say. Like I'm trying to catch up now. I'm starting to watch some anime again, but I have catching up on other series to do before I get anything modern that would let me answer that question. Would you want Hasbro to make 2-pack of both aerial and land Viacons for Prime in the Age of the Prime series? Not as a 2-pack because that would make the release a lot more limited. I would much rather just get a land Viacon that was retooled into an air Viacon later, and that would stand a far better chance of finding it and getting multiples of it if I want to troop build it. Because I might not necessarily want all of the jet Viacons. Maybe all I want is like 4 or 5 of the land Viacons, and I just don't care about the jets, right? Also, the jets have a repaint that the land ones do not. So I need those to be sold separately so that at some point maybe I can get like just like one of the elite aerial Viacons. So no, I'd much rather just be like individual releases. I'm sure that's how Hasbro would want to do them too. I always hear about people regretting selling off figures. It's part of the reason I'm hesitant to sell any of mine. So what are some of your figures you do not regret selling? I mean, any of the bad ones? That really is what it comes down to. It's like I honestly can't tell you like a very specific figure because literally it's been hundreds, literally hundreds that I have sold off over the years and haven't even thought about since. You know, I have no qualms over like selling off the Energon, like Energon Superion, or it's Revenge of the Fallen repaint. Don't miss them in the least. Things like that. But like I could literally just name off hundreds of figures like that. It's a much like the ones you regret selling are always a much smaller list than the ones that you don't regret selling. What is the worst Western produced Transformers series? Yeah, do you mean a toy line? Because that would go to Titanium. We've been over that. But if you mean a cartoon series, really, like, all of them have been Western produced, with the exception of the Unicron trilogy and Transformers Go. And I guess now, like, NASA Transformers in China. But yeah, the vast majority have been done stateside. And as far as like what the worst one is, that's all subjective. I think the one that captured my interest the least was RID 2015. Because I think it was too far of a departure from Prime. And while it had good designs, I wasn't really huge on the storyline of the whole thing. I didn't like, again, I don't like when my heroes aren't treated like heroes. And to find out, well, considering they saved the entire planet of Cybertron, defeated Megatron for good, etc., etc., yeah, we're just gonna bust all of these Autobots that were involved in this down to just like beat cop level. So like, Bumblebee, I know you personally slayed Megatron, right? What have you done for me lately, though? Yeah, so I'd probably go with that one. We have Cyberworld going on now, and that's going to be a very iffy series for a lot of people. We'll see how that one turns out. Which is your preferred look for Cybertron? Do you like the cartoonish metal ball with buildings of G1 most cartoons, the Coruscant look from Beast era, or the honeycomb look from the Bayverse? I desperately hate the honeycomb look from the Bayverse. I hate how Cybertron looks in the movies, with the exception of one. Oh, it looks good in one. I do really like the old school look on Cybertron. Like, I like the idea, like, there's just a big gap in the planet that lets you see all the way down to the middle. It just reminds you that, because here's the thing, smooth ball with just like lights and things on the surface to show you tiny cities, that doesn't have any personality or character to it. Cybertron G1 with that massive gap and those like crude cities and towers reminds you that this was a Quintesson factory and that they were not finished building it when they were forced to escape. That gives it history. That gives it characters. You know, it's like not buffing all of the scratches and dents out of like a weapon or a shield. Like, it gives it character. It tells a story. What's the example of the perfect Cybertronian alt mode for you? There's somewhere between like this looks like a real vehicle and what are you doing transforming into something that complex? This ain't rocket science. You don't need to do that here. You're like perfect Cybertronian alt mode goes into things like Cyclonus, you know, where like, you know, like where it's still like a really good looking vehicle. It would operate in an atmosphere if it's necessary, but it still looks super futuristic and makes sense for like a spaceship. It's like things of that nature. And it's, you know, feasibly a vehicle I can imagine him hiding out as. Like, I can imagine Cybertron having a bunch of those and him just disguising himself as one. Have you seen Phoenix Studios enter the Knights Realm rewrites of Bayverse? No, I have not. No, I have not. I don't really take in like other Transformers content creators all that much. You know, a few reviewers here and there, but like nothing of like anyone rewriting anything. What would your thoughts be on a Beast Wars version of Gilthor? Oh my god. I'm imagining the horror show the Beast Mode would be. Oh my god, it's a scaled monkey with a tail and a giant jaw. Oh, that'd be horrifying. Yeah, that's probably like, it'd be an amusing idea. Like, I'm actually surprised the concept of Giltor has not really stretched any farther than just like that one manga in Japan. because it's a fascinating idea. It's like, let's merge the two leader characters and see what happens. And we have so many that we could do that with too. If Megatron were to have an equivalent of Roller, what would it be? Let's see. Let's see here. There's a. I feel like the equivalent of Roller would be some kind of flying drone that would either act as similar to the Sky Spy or just be like an auxiliary weapon for Megatron. You would have to make it out of the ankle stock and the silencer from his gun mode. And that doesn't give you a whole lot of components to work with, but I think something can be done with that. Yeah, it's a little bit iffy, but like you could probably work some kind of like flying drone out of that. You don't bring up this franchise much around here. So what is your favorite Star Wars toy as a kid? My favorite was actually the hang on, let me make sure I get the name correct, because if there's one fandom I don't want to upset by getting a detail wrong, it's Star Wars fans. Okay, my favorite toy was the Outrider from Shadows of the Empire. I really liked the games, and I really like the character of Dash Rendar. I'm actually looking forward to getting his Black Series figure, even though I don't think it's detailed right. I think it's too pretty. I don't think he needs to be scruffy looking, and he's not. He's like pretty Dash Rendar. I wanted like scruffy, like 9 o'clock shadow Dash Rendar. But no, I thought the Outrider was a super cool vehicle. Like for those who've never seen it, it's like a mini Millennium Falcon, but you can rotate the core of it, the cockpit section, to create this like, was it a B-Wing? I'm trying to think of like which Star Wars vehicle that matches. It basically turns into a vertical vehicle, and I thought that was a really cool trick. Yeah, but like, I had a few from Power of the Force I really liked. I really liked Forlom. I liked the Dash Rendar. Of course, that one too. Yeah, my favorites kind of live in that area. Should Blackout show up in a new comic or cartoon? Given the fact that he has such presence, like, because he is the first live action Transformer we ever saw, yes, I definitely think we have not utilized Blackout enough. Especially if we need a big bruiser that's loyal to Megatron, and we don't want to be just like as sycophant as Tarn or like simpy as Lugnut. I think like Blackout's like a nice middle ground of like, I can trust this Decepticon. What if Hasbro did a Timelines version of Megatron where he turns into an American Lockheed P-19 Lightning fighter plane from World War II? It's clever because they both the vehicle and the gun use the same serial number. But that said, I don't know cars, and I certainly do not know aircraft. So I have no answer for you, unfortunately, because I do not know what a Lockheed P-38 Lightning fighter plane looks like. But no, that era would present a lot of vehicles that they could use for timelines, though. I will say that. Which figure would you prefer Hasbro to remake? Would you prefer Hasbro to make? Torka remake, Hovercraft Grimlock, or Spino Shockwave? Funny. I don't know why that randomizer really wanted me to talk about Hovercraft Grimlock. The Spinosaur Shockwave? I think people just really like that idea because the Spinosaurus using its tail as a big rail gun across its back was a really cool visual. But that's it. Other than that, that design does not scream Shockwave in any way, shape, or form. I would absolutely want the Torka remake because I grew up with the Torka. I really liked that toy. It is a GPS nightmare now. I would want an alternative. And because it's a whale and an elephant mixed, I would absolutely want that thing to be bigger. You need a leader class Torka here. Do you think Scourge and Cyclonus retaining Thundercracker and Skyward / Bombshell's superpowers after the Unicron reformatting? If you believe the theory behind some of this stuff, like here's the thing. They got this backwards. Like the confusion is Skywarp Bombshell or I'm tired again. Is Cyclonus Bombshell or Skywarp? If Bombshell was one of the sweeps, if Bombshell got turned into Scourge, that would explain why there's always so many, because he keeps the cloning powers of the Insecticons. But honestly, no, I don't need them to have the same superpowers. If they're being completely reformatted, they really don't need them, or they could get, or really they should have developed new ones, because Cyclonus and Scourge do not have any of the superpowers that the season 1 bots had. After season 1, they kind of forgot that they gave Transformers unique abilities, didn't they? Would it make sense if they did an inverted Transformer story where the entire series is focused on the main Autobots and Decepticons in a situation like the episode Only Human, and the goal is to get one of the prime artifacts to revert themselves to robot form? It wouldn't make sense to do that as like a series, but that's like a 1 episode thing. Because like I don't want to see a Transformer series where all the characters are humans. That's why I didn't like Master Force, because I don't want to watch a bunch of human characters in a Transformer cartoon. I don't want them to be the main focus. I want to see the giant robots. So unfortunately, no, I don't think that would make sense. You're basically describing Mask. If your D&D characters and their parties somehow attained a Spelljammer and it can transform from spaceship to a Colossus and back, which design would you want it to be based on? The legendary Megazord from Power Rangers Super Megaforce or the Unicron Trilogy Tidal Wave? That's... Okay, so what shape would I want a Spelljammer turn into? So, for me, honestly, probably a legendary Megazord, because if we're going into D&D, even if it's Spelljammer, I would prefer a pirate ship. I really would. Do you think the Insecticons might work as a potential rival or Decepticon equivalent to the Dinobots, or should they be given stuff like original new members or something that make them stand a better chance? So, honestly, like, I feel like the Insecticons are just like a little bit too puny. Even if you add new members, like even if you bring in the deluxe Insecticons, I don't feel like you would have like a good competition for the Dinobots. I feel like the Decepticons would just have to come up with like their own monstrous Decepticons, like based on like mythical creatures. And that would be your competition. I think the Insecticons just don't have enough beef behind them to compete with the Dinobots. Do you think it was a missed opportunity for Hasbro to not produce a G1 Galvatron in the original Legends of Cybertron and Core class assortments? Not necessarily, because G1 Galvatron would be really difficult to render at that size. I don't see it as a missed opportunity so much. I just see it more as just like Core really needed to be done better. As far as like the original Legends of Cybertron, that was severely limited by the fact that they were all repaints. And like they're all like, because like Legends of Cybertron was the mini line for Cybertron, for Cybertron, the Unicron trilogy, and then it continued into classics, but all repaints. So I don't think he had an opportunity to do a Galvatron at any point in that line. As far as core goes, I don't think I need to see a G1 Galvatron at that size. I don't know. I don't think there's much reason to do it outside of like, oh, well, there was a hot rod. That's kind of it. It was brought up, what do you think of the movie Barricade in G1 setting? Who from G1 do you think would work well in the movies? And yeah, you're specifically talking about the Bayverse. I mean, if we're taking an actual character from G1 and bringing them into the movies, okay, fine. It would have to fit in with the style, well, not the visual style, but the character style. Let's see. Just running through random Transformers here, trying to think of someone good. I mean, I think Abominus would work, because the Decepticons like just being big, snarling creatures in those movies. It's a weird one, but, I wouldn't mind seeing that. It seemed like it would fit into the theme of the movies pretty well. Just on the top of your head, which transforming tank toy you have experience with has the best tank alt mode? I mean, if you're just basing it purely on, like, how good the tank mode is, then you're gonna look at like G2 Megatron, where maybe the camo's a little over the top and weird, but like it's just a tank. Like it's just a normal tank with no, just doing like actual tank things. So yeah, there's that. But like it's just like overall just like best tank periods, not accuracy wise. I still defend Generations Warpath as a toy I really, really like. It's a mix, it's somewhere in between like the H tanks they're obsessed with and a normal shaped tank. That's still a really good toy. Would you like to see things like the drones from Energon's Prime Force or the Power Core Combiner Limbs prone to full character stats with names and robot modes? For Energon, yes. For Power Core, no. Because like I really don't think there's enough to work with the Power Core. At that point, you're just basically just designing normal Transformer toys. Your exception would probably be the Dinobots from that line. Because we've already got Scar. It's getting very late now. We've already got Scar, so that's already one. So then you just have to start messing around, seeing how you'd work with the others. But that's the only one I could really think would work. But for Energon Prime's Prime Force, I wouldn't mind seeing them as like simple little robots. I think that wouldn't be too bad. With Cyberworld tackling different binomes, do you think they should include Tidal Wave and Omega Supreme as large toys that can become playsets with simplified features? Tidal Wave and Omega would only become a singular big warship, spaceship, and don't separate into components. And modern deluxe level articulation, adding ankle tits. So, I wouldn't mind seeing them in Cyberworld, especially if we continue with these large ones like Scorponok. But understand they would be extraordinarily simple toys. You could make a Tidal Wave work. You can make a Tidal Wave work. I don't know if you can make any kind of Omega Supreme work. Because I don't see a way of turning him into that rocket base without some complicated engineering being mixed into it. Because it's got to be his arms as the rockets, right? That presents a problem. It'd be cool to see him fight, but yeah, I think Tidal Wave is the one that has a chance of actually working there. You're not going to get deluxe level articulation out of anything Cyberworld. You're just not. You think Blaster should get more cassettes to match how many Soundwave has, like other small animals, birds, rodents, etc.? Absolutely. I love the cassette bots. Like, I would love to see another lineup of those. And yeah, you're right. Blaster doesn't have nearly as many. Is there a Diaclone mold that never got a Transformers toy that you would like to have seen as one? So we did video about Diaclone toys, like what else could have been Megatron, there's a few in there that look fun, but offhand, I can't honestly remember any of them. So yeah, I don't really have an answer for that one, unfortunately. What is your Transformer combiner? I mean, do you really mean like my favorite one or the one I'm into the most? Like that's Computron, that's the Technobots. If you're asking me to come up with a full combiner, that falls under the category of like asking me to come up for the full roster of things. So yeah, that one I would skip. Can you say one good thing and one bad thing about living in Florida? Well, the bad thing is, well, hurricanes. I don't I don't like living in fear of those for half of the year. That's not great. Good things about living in Florida. Okay. Hang on. There's got to be something. There's got to be something here. I guess the only real, like, the biggest benefit to living in Florida is just your proximity to Disney World. Because, like, it's not like it is out in California where there's, like, there's a Universal Studios there and all that. Like, in Orlando, they're all just lumped on top of each other. Like, you can get one hotel where you are, less than 10 minutes from Disney. That's also 10 minutes from Universal if you want to make a full vacation out of it. See. Favorite character so far in the Skybound Transformers comics? I mean, Megatron is showing an unrivaled level of aura farming lately. Favorite characters? I mean, I do like that they're taking like the now familiar track with Thundercracker. I'm glad to see that. Skybound Optimus we've talked about because, he is very much like the most Optimus has been in years, which has been really refreshing. Yeah, I think I would go with those two. I think I would go with those. But also Frank Welker's never mentioned that he's retired the role of Megatron. That's not a thing that's happened. What do you think would be a funnier idea for a figure? Tank Optimus Prime or Fire Truck Megatron? Definitely Fire Truck Megatron if we're talking like funny. Because Megatron would never lower himself to transform into something that's purely meant to rescue humans. But a Tank Optimus Prime I can actually see. Like we talked about that, if like the Autobots had a different ideology about handling Decepticons, then I could see Optimus Prime as a tank. Okay, what would you say to Hasbro following a made-to-order route for making Pretender shells into posable figures with 5mm ports on them, and the inner robots are weaponized that can attach to it? Ooh, I don't think it would be a made-to-order thing, because what you're talking about requires so much engineering. I'm not necessarily sure you could justify doing that as a made-to-order limited run thing. But I don't mind the idea of the inner robots of a Pretender being weaponizers that could attach to the shell for added components. That's not a bad way of giving those shells something to do. Really, it just comes down to those shells have got to do something more than just stand there and raise their arms up and down. They've got to be their own figures, or they have to transform into something too. I think that's your problem with modern Pretenders, not like a made-to-order thing. I don't mind the weaponizer idea, though. Have you ever looked at the Constructicons and think, shouldn't they glow in the dark? Not really, actually. So, glow-in-the-dark plastic is actually closer to like a milky white color than it is green. It's very rare that you see like solid green toys that actually glow green in the dark. They do have that bright green coloring to them to make you think they are glowing in the dark, but like, no, I've not looked at them and thought that before. Now the Studio Series Titans are a thing. Do you see the Titan class finally coming full circle with the eventual fall of Cybertron Metroplex figure down the line? If the gamer stuff does well enough to continue, then possibly. I feel like Titans for a while are going to be on the smaller side, and if we see them go big, they're going to be like $250 pieces. And that's what we would need for like a Fall of Cybertron Metroplex or like a Triptychon from the same games. Like, yeah, like I do see them as a possibility though. As a joke, if Core Class wasn't discontinued, do you think Hasbro would have released Micronus Prime as a Core Class figure in the Age of the Primes? Absolutely. I do think what we have right now is a compromise to what he really would have been if Core Class was still a thing, because that's how big he should have been. He should have been that small. But this is a way of releasing him as a deluxe. I think we're getting a far more interesting figure, but you are correct. If if a Core was still a thing, he would have been a Core. Is a live action Transformers show feasible? Probably not, because the CGI is so expensive to do. I don't think you could justify doing it on a weekly TV level. And, TV just doesn't have the budget for that. In an all-out battle between Babe versus Shattered Glass Prime, who wins overall? Probably Shattered Glass. He tends to be depicted more powerful than Babe versus Optimus. And we'll keep in mind here, Babe versus Transformers break real easy. Like sometimes they feel like they are made of paper or tin foil. So yeah, Shattered Glass definitely pulls that out. I wonder how many people realize the Gamer Subline Studio Series is a bigger toy chest that is a bigger toy chest than we would think, I assume. Yes, there's probably a lot of people who do not realize just how many things we could get out of that subline if Hasbro was aware that we knew it and wanted it. You could get everything from like web games that they did to like the Rodimus colored Ultra Magnus from Mystery of Convoy. If you wanted to go that far. With Hasbro completing the 86 Constructicons, also finally making a modern hauler toy, do you think we will see Gravedigger at all? Most likely not, because he has no toy presence. And also, Gravedigger happens to be a very popular monster truck still, especially on the toy aisle. Someone's going to hold that trademark. So it would basically just be a brand new Constructicon at that point. Quick question: if Transmutate had a beast mode and it would look like Distortus Rex, that's not a question. Imagine if Transmutate has a beast mode and it looks like Distortus Rex from Jurassic World Rebirth. This is not a question. This is not a question. So let's not use that format, please. Since Trigger Happy didn't make the cut in your toy list of the year, I think it was 2016. I'm not sure. Where would he have technically ended up if he did make the list? He probably would have been like an 11. He probably would have been like right at the tail end. To be fair, that toy is really good. I just think it didn't have like enough like trick to it to make the list. I mean, it's a solid year of toys. Something good was going to miss the list. It upset a lot of people that it was off the list, but hey, that's just how I felt. My opinion. Since He-Man constantly got figures in the original Masters of the Universe toy line, what if Optimus got that treatment in G1? So the only reason he got a second figure in G1 is because he was killed off in the movie and there was so much rage against it. Hasbro realized the character had a lot of popularity and came up with Power Master Optimus Prime as like the earliest they could get him back into the toy line. So yeah, it would have been fun It would have been fun to see all the different iterations of Optimus Prime. I will say that. But yeah, if Prime had never died, you only would have saw the one toy of him until Action Masters. That's how it would have gone. Question: Steve Jablonski's Bayverse scores or Brian Tyler's Transformers Prime TF1 scores? So one thing I won't take away from the Bayverse is like I love the scores to those movies. Those stuck with me a little bit better than the stuff from Prime and One. What is the weirdest Transformers related dream that you have had? I spent years having a recurring dream where I was at a friend's house and he gave me this he gave me what was like an oversized G1 hot rod. It was like really dark in colors. And he put it in a box and handed it to me. And then next thing I know, I'm in the back of my parents' car holding the box, thinking I've got this big, cool hot rod toy. I open up the box and it's empty. And I look out the back window and there's the kid waving from the road and he's holding the hot rod. There's that. I've had recurring dreams of like stores where I turn a corner and find like Headmasters still in package. I've had recurring dreams of like a mall that I had gone to several times that had like super cool Transformers in a like an offbeat store. And like swear up and down, I've gone to this mall. It's just a drive down the road, like 20 minutes from here. No, it's not. Doesn't exist. Do you think Hasbro would ever think of doing a line that's just famous vehicles? I mean, we have the DeLorean for the Ecto 1 and 2 cars from Jurassic Park. So you run out of marketable ones really quick when you do that. So like Christine, that's not going to sell. Like there's just not enough people who are going to want that. It's got to be a unique car. It can't just be like some random car that they used in a movie that the movie made a big deal out of. You know, there's got to be something unique to it. You know, like do like the Green Goblin truck from Maximum Overdrive, and then maybe you got something. Maybe you got something there. The reason why you don't get a full line of that is because it would be ludicrously expensive to do. Because you have to remember, you're not just licensing the name and the intellectual property of the movie, TV show, etc. You're also licensing the vehicle from the car company because most of those were real cars. So you're dealing with 2 licensing fees on top of the extent that they are all, you know, of the cost of just making them in the first place. Way too expensive to do as a full line. Way too expensive. Better to do one at a time. What if Sentai Heroes had dinosaur body-shaped visors? Dinosaur body-shaped? I think that would be a little bit too weird. Because, like, you couldn't... It'd look weird to have that as a profile. And, like, as a head-on, you wouldn't be able to make out the dinosaur. Yeah, I don't think that works. I don't think that works, honestly. If Fast and Furious did a Transformers collab, which iconic vehicles should they do? Didn't watch Fast and Furious. I didn't watch Fast and Furious. I literally have no idea what cars are in there. And again, we are asking like what car. Normally, like I take whatever the most common theme of the questions are and use them for the title. And now like the video is probably just going to be TJ doesn't know any cars. It's probably just going to be what it is. It's like just be aware. I have to add it to the disclaimer in the top post now of just like be aware. I don't know car models, so please don't ask me specific car models. And here we go, the final one. What game would you want a Transformers crossover with? For me, it's Portal 2. For me, it's Twisted Metal. I want to see Transformer characters in Twisted Metal. Let's back this up. I want a Twisted Metal. I'm super happy that Sony has put so much time and effort into getting this like Twisted Metal TV show that that a lot of my friends end up really liking, and then capitalized on it by not making a new game. Funny how that works. So that is going to be it. That is the end of the Q&A. Where did we leave off? Oh my God, it's 3 hours on the dot as I look at it. Oh my God, I was way too verbose this time. Way too verbose. But if you stuck around this long, thank you very much for the persistence. I know you're probably listening to this as like a podcast, so I hope you liked your answers. And again, pay attention to the pinned comment for the rules about what, like how to leave a question for next month. I'm going to go sleep now. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.